Hello everybody, welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's the 29th of April 2026. I'm Kerry Holzman and today we've got a FIREBAT brand laptop, which we only saw our very first FIREBAT product earlier, a couple days ago. And then I saw this laptop available on Amazon for only $377 for a complete warranted, brand new, never used, not refurbished laptop. Seems too cheap. So I thought, let's check it out. So we bought it thanks to our friends in green that are our members that support us here. Otherwise, you know, FIREBAT didn't send this to us. We went and we paid for it. So I think a lot of people are flipping through YouTube, don't give a rat's behind how the videos get paid for. But you should, because when the videos are paid for by the company, then what you're watching is a commercial disguised as a review, and they're manipulating you. And if you like being manipulated, you know, don't let me get in your way. But I treat this YouTube channel like I treat my business, and that I wouldn't just sell a customer something to make money. It's got to be able to resolve the customer's issues within the customer's budget, and I've got to be able to stick my name on it so that the customer knows they bought it from me. I'm responsible. Customer doesn't care if I sell them FIREBAT or any other brand. That's what they hire me to do, is make that decision for them, because they have confidence that I know what I'm doing and they don't. So therefore, if they want to make the decision right the first time and not spend more than they need to, go to an expert who can guide them. But there's too many experts that are just salesmen being paid behind the scenes by corporations, and they don't care. They absolutely do not care. As long as they're making money, that is the driving force in America. So most of the YouTube content, especially the tech content, is paid for behind the scenes without your knowledge. We're being fully transparent, and we let you know how we're paying for this stuff, or if we're getting it for free, and if so, under what conditions. We don't sign NDAs. We don't play any of those corporate control games. We are not under anyone's control. So in much the same way, I run my business the way I run my business. If people don't like it, they can take their business somewhere else. I'm sure if you ran your business, you wouldn't want a customer dictating to you how to run your business. If your business is fine, you're not doing anything wrong, and you don't need anything fixed. So the problem is the customer. So buy customer. At the same time, I don't want to dismiss the faith and confidence my customers have in me, because I want them to come back again and again in the future for hiring me for more jobs. I might be hungry and need to eat today, but I'll also be hungry tomorrow and next month and next year. How am I going to keep eating? So scam artists will just work from one scam to the next. They burn a bridge, they go to another bridge, they burn that one. There's a lot of bridges, and they might be able to pull that off for a long time, but I honestly don't want to work that hard. It's so much easier to just take care of the customer and have that customer come back rather than burn them, because in my experience, I'll make a lot more money over time than I will in a one-shot kind of make a sale, make the profit, go spend the money, and then they feel burned. They don't want to deal with me. Harms my reputation. I either have to move, start over again, or change careers just to make a few bucks. I don't want to work that hard, no. So thank you to our friends in green, the people that support us here, because it's with their contributions that we're able to make these purchases and do our clear, independent, real reviews, not the corporate nonsense that's hiding behind the scenes of most big tech channels. And that's okay. The tech channels aren't doing anything wrong. It's the viewers that need to be educated. And that's why I want to make sure the viewers understand what you're watching. So if you like to watch commercials, you've come to the wrong place. You could pretty much watch almost any other tech channel. The bigger they are, the more likely they're making commercials. But that's just a general term. It's not like there aren't exceptions. But overall, if it's a big tech channel, if they got 1 million+ subscribers, they're probably making ads, meaning they're getting paid on the back end by a corporation, and they're not telling you, they're hiding it from you. So how do you trust somebody's review if they can't even be straightforward about the fact that they're being paid? So that's my thing, right? How do you earn somebody's trust? And it's just implied. Somebody's making a video and the audience just goes, oh, he seems nice or she seems nice, but you don't know what's really happening behind the scenes. And if you took time to find out, it might really offend you that you were played for a fool. So that's how I feel anyway. So when I see these kind of tech channels, I know what to look for, and maybe I'm wrong sometimes, but I don't care. Like the minute they start crossing the line to what I feel is they're hiding something, they're not being transparent, I don't trust that person. I don't trust anything they have to say, and I'm not interested in any of their commercials. I don't care if they call them reviews. They could call it whatever they want. A commercial's a commercial. So why not just be honest and say, hey, we're getting paid to make this, and then everything's cool. But most content creators won't do that. So because of that, or at least most of the big tech content creators, in my experience, they don't do that. So we're going to do the exact opposite, because in my opinion, there needs to be more balance to counter what's going on in the big channels in this on this platform here on YouTube dealing with tech. And it's because of our members that we can do it. Otherwise, you know, we'd be out of money. We'd be spending money and making nothing until we ran out of money. That would be the end of it. Also, I want to give a shout out and a thank you to our friends at VIP URCD Keys. That's where I get my Windows licenses and Microsoft Office licenses for my real business and my real customers. I can't afford to pay what Microsoft wants and still be competitive in the market. It's not possible. So I need the kind of pricing Dell and HP and others get. And the best I have found with legal, legitimate license keys is VIP URCD Keys. They offer us a 25% discount. You're going to pay the same price I pay. And I'm not aware of any other business that runs a computer repair or business that builds computers that will disclose where they're getting their parts and software. It's really stupid for a business owner to do that. But I don't care, because I know it's the right thing to do. So I'm going to get my license keys for the same price and the same way that I'm about to show you, that you can also do. You don't have to be me. You don't have to be anyone with a YouTube channel or a business to get the business pricing. So if you look underneath a video that we did last month, just as an example, any video I do has this little box under it. And if you hit the more button there, that's going to expose what I keep referring to as video notes or video description. That has all the links for everything we talked about in the video, including the links for the Windows 10, 11, and Office product keys. Click on the link and then you don't have to search for it. It's not a commission-based link, so if you want to search for it and not use the coupon code, it doesn't make a difference to me. I would assume you'd want to save the 25%, but maybe you don't. Here we just hit the Buy Now button, sign in with your email address and password. If you haven't set up an account with them, it's free to do so. They must have that in order to send you the private information that is your product key and to keep a record of your purchase history. That's for you, by the way. Here I'm entering the coupon code right down there while I was talking. You see the price dropped, and then I just submit the order. At that point, it's going to take me to a payment page. What I require is a PayPal option, and a lot of these businesses that sell license keys, PayPal won't work with them. That's the reason why you won't see PayPal. So the fact that these folks have PayPal tells you they're different right out of the gate. But you could also use Visa, MasterCard, Google Pay, and others. After that, you fill out your payment form within 2 minutes, and it doesn't matter if it's night or day, weekday or weekend, holiday or not. Within 2 minutes, usually you'll get an email within 2 minutes. That'll say, here's a confirmation of your purchase. Here's a link to download the Office or Windows product, although you can download that yourself if you don't already have it. If you don't know, all of this is new to you, just follow the instructions in the email. And then you've got your product key, and then you're activated. You're not making any phone calls. By the way, Microsoft shut down phone activation for all their products. You can no longer contact Microsoft by phone. So, you know, good luck with some of these other key sellers that they don't care. They just take your money, and then when you have a problem, too bad, so sad. Once again, that's the mentality of a scammer. I can't run my business on that. What am I supposed to do? I have to go buy another license for my customer because the one I bought, because it was cheaper, didn't work, and now they're ghosting me? Or I can't wait for their response because the customer's waiting on the computer and I don't know if and when they're ever going to respond because I'm having a problem with the activation key? So then what do? Buy another one? Well, it's not so cheap anymore, is it? So I found this place, the VIP URCD Keys, because it is very affordable and they have 6 months of free support, and it's pretty rare you'll ever even need their support. It just works. So take that for whatever it's worth. It was a lot of time and a lot of research for me to find that. They did not approach us. We approached them. We asked them if they would extend the offer to our audience, and thankfully they agreed, and I'm happy and honored that they are supporting us here on the channel. And it's because of them, as well as because of everybody in green, that we're able to buy the content we need to do this type of video content. Otherwise, the channel will have to change to something that, you know, I can read the news, I can read the tech news. That doesn't cost anything at all. I don't want to do that. There's plenty of people doing that. In fact, we could create AI to do it for us. I don't even need to be involved. So I want to be able to utilize my skill and my career and bring it to the YouTube channel to help people that are interested. But I also can't afford to be a charity and give up my life savings to help complete strangers around the world, because I will run out of money whether I like it or not, and the channel will shut down as a result. So I cannot emphasize how much the YouTube platform has changed, where the advertising used to cover all the costs. It no longer does, unless we sponsor up with a corporate overlord that tells us what we can say and can't say. If they can't tell us what we can say and can't say, then why would they pay us? What's in it for them? So that's the dichotomy of this environment, which is very challenging for me to figure out. But thankfully, with the support of our members and the support of our friends over at VIP URCD Keys, everybody wins. You guys can get good, quality, legal, legit license keys for a fraction of what Microsoft wants. Not be ghosted, not lose any support, or worry about what's going to happen. And we can continue paying for the products we want to review, while the industry is pulling back with how many new products they're introducing and being quite stingy overall over what they're sending out for review now. So our true way to independence and to keep moving in this format is to continue to do so by having your support. And for that, I cannot thank you guys enough, because otherwise there probably wouldn't be a video today. Speaking of which, thank you to our friend Buster and Mark Gaines, both of which sent Amazon gift cards in lieu of Super Chat. And that's great, because Super Chat, YouTube takes 30% of your money. Memberships, YouTube takes 30% of your money. Advertising rates, YouTube takes 45% of a content creator's money of earned income. So you add that up, what does it leave the content creator? But when you send an Amazon gift card, Amazon doesn't take any percentage out of it. They don't make me wait for it. They'll send it to me within 10 minutes. I can redeem it. And guess where I bought this? I bought it on Amazon, just like you would. And I pay the same price you'll pay if you want to take advantage. Now, here's what we're looking at today. Let me go over to the FIREBAT website so we get an idea of what's in the box. There it is. Okay, so this is firebatpc.com, and this is the AS1, which is a Ryzen 5 7430. Now you'll notice here it says $696.29. That seems a little bit high. It's got the Ryzen 5 7430. It can hold up to 64 gigs of RAM, but it doesn't tell us which one we bought. I guarantee we didn't get that much RAM for what we paid, or that much storage. So this looks like an overall general product specification. This one is saying 7436 cores, 12 threads, 15-inch screen that supports 1080. It's an IPS display. It's DDR4, and a 512 gig NVMe is included. That's going to be Gen 3. The battery information is there, and really no reviews or anything on this. But I didn't find it here. I found it over on Amazon. So look at this. $377. And what you're going to get is this laptop, which is a screen, a keyboard, a trackpad, a battery power adapter, a battery, speakers, and a full working computer, all self-contained. No additional accessories are needed to make this thing work. Just plug it in, open the lid, you're done. So what are we getting? 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gig SSD. Those two items alone in the marketplace today are probably worth $200. And that means you're looking at the rest of the laptop, backlit keyboard, everything, the screen, for only $177. Like, that seems way too cheap, doesn't it? Is it really this good of a deal? And that's why I wanted to buy it. I wanted to see for myself. I don't need a laptop like this, but a lot of people do. And, you know, this is higher end than what you normally get at this price. This is more of a mid-range laptop. And look at this. It's got Type-C on there. It's got HDMI output. Even a Dell XPS doesn't have an HDMI output at $3,000 these days. It's got an SD card slot reader. It's got USB 2 and a USB 3.2 on the other side. It even has an RJ45 wired LAN jack, which looks like it's got a little jaw because these laptops are so thin they can't fit the jacks on them, and this is how they resolved it. Most new laptops, again, we talk about $2,000, $3,000 Razer or Samsung Galaxy Book or Dell XPS. They don't have this jack anymore. They've removed it. So I'm really tickled to see a laptop at this price point has all of these added features. I would not expect it to have a card reader or a LAN jack. And then we've got our headset or headphone output. Not to be confused, on the other side there's a round hole. That's your power input. There is a barrel style power jack. It is not powered by the USB 3.2. And this final one down here, this is a Kensington lock. That is not a USB-C. That's if you want to use like a steel bicycle cable for locking a bicycle to a bike rack. Well, they make that similar item for laptops where it expands into this slot with the turn of a key, and you can loop it around, you know, something that's fixed to the ground. Just take the cable, wrap it around something that's bolted to the ground or very heavy, wrap it around a table leg, and then take the end of it and turn the key. It locks into this hole, and that way nobody can walk off with your laptop, at least not without a pair of pretty significant wire cutters. And of course, they show this being used for home, school, business, taking it on a trip, obviously. If it's a laptop, it's meant to be portable. Use it on your desk as a workstation. Yeah, it does all that. It's not the highest end laptop, but at this price point, I don't think that you can get more for the money. Normally at this price point, you're going to see end Celeron type Intel processors or Ryzen 3 type AMD processors, or AMD even has a budget line, which we've got some machines coming with the budget line. This is not budget line. This is mid-range, but it's got a budget price. So I'm wondering, what's the catch? Look at the reviews. It's at 4.6 stars out of 3 reviews, and people are happy with it. So I stumbled on this looking for mini PCs to review, and this company FIREBAT came up, and I said, well, who's FIREBAT? I never heard of them. And then I saw their prices and their specifications, and I went, whoa. So that's what we're here to verify today. I returned this and tried a Nemo with similar specs, but I feel like the FIREBAT seems to perform smoother in yours, but physically heavier. But perhaps that's why I feel like it's more solid and not too plasticky. But performance-wise, I think this would have been better. Oh, at this price, come on. If you can afford it, but just being cheap, just spend the money. Well, I keep telling you that. I wish I could afford something in the $1,000 range. Well, sure, and I wish I drove a Rolls Royce. But you know, you can either get off your butt and make the sacrifices to make that happen. Nobody is stopping this person from saving up their money to buy an Alienware. Their own lack of self-discipline, or their own lack of, you know, maybe they have a victim mentality that it's somebody else's fault they can't afford it. If they truly meant what they said, if they truly believed what they were saying, they would just save their money, make the sacrifices, sell some things, go without for a little bit, and buy the Alienware if that's really honestly what they want. But clearly, what they say and what they do are two different things. And we see this in society constantly, where people will not accept responsibility. It's always somebody else's fault. It's not my fault I can't afford it. Yes, it is. And you can accept that, or if you're not going to accept it, do something about it. But don't say, I wish I could afford something better. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because if they truly wish they could afford something better, they would make the sacrifice and they would gather the money just like anybody else. So they don't really mean that, or they would have done it. It's not that big of a sacrifice. But yet today people don't want to sacrifice. Not like we used to in the 80s. We didn't have a choice. Today people have a choice to just say, well, woe is me, and I'll just do without it. Well, back then we didn't have the choice. You either had nothing or you got off your butt and earned it. Nobody was giving away anything. Nobody I knew. We were all in the same boat together, and some of us were going for a free ride and others were doing the work rowing. And the people going for the free ride, if they're complaining the boat's not moving fast enough, it's a good way to get yourself thrown overboard. All right, so this is nonsense. Absolute nonsense. If you can't afford it like me, see, this is what I'm saying. Like this person has a disease that prevents them from earning money that the rest of us can seemingly do if we want to. But they don't want to. That's my point. It's not about whether or not you can or you can't. You absolutely can afford to buy that Alienware if you're willing to sacrifice for it. And if you're not willing to sacrifice for it, then just be honest and say so. Don't make yourself out to be a victim. Oh, I was born into poverty and I'm just going to stay in poverty my whole life. Yeah. It didn't affect Elon Musk that way, or Jeff Bezos, who was adopted into, not having a very young teenage mother who had no job and no career. And, some people will just lay there and take it and whine about being a victim. And other people will push back. And the people who push back, they're the ones who would say, write the review and say, hey, I think an Alienware is much better for $2,000. So I pinched my pennies and sold off some things that I didn't want anymore and saved my money, and then I bought one. It's really that hard. But welcome to 2026. This is the culture we live in today. But overall, the review is positive, and that makes me feel hopeful that this is what it claims to be. And if it is, at $377, you've got to be out of your mind to say that's not enough. Like, really? Then spend some more money. Well, I don't have it. Well, then sacrifice. No, I can't do that. I don't have any discipline. I have the mind of a 6-year-old. Okay, well then I don't know what to tell you. I'm not your babysitter. But, let's take some accountability, some ownership, and accept that as adults, we decide the quality of our life. Nobody else decides that. We decide it. And if that's what you've rested your laurels on and you're not going to try any harder, I feel bad for you. But I don't feel bad that you can't afford it. I feel bad that you don't believe enough in yourself, or you're not willing to make a sacrifice, but you want the reward. This is the participation trophy error. It's like, well, you played. You didn't play well, but we'll give you a trophy anyway. No, you got to earn that trophy. You didn't earn it, you don't get it. What's the point of working hard to win if everybody gets a trophy? That's the stupidest thing ever. So, this is frustrating for me, because if I was raised that way, this channel probably wouldn't exist. I probably wouldn't have my own business. I would probably be just, a face in a crowd, going to work every day, sitting in rush hour traffic, doing what everybody else does, not making enough money at the end of the week, that I'm struggling to get by, feeling trapped that I can't afford to quit the job. And I would just be joining into that mentality, which I absolutely refuse to be so simple and basic. I will not accept that. But if other people want to, that's their business. But I don't respect it. It's just the least amount of effort you can possibly exude. And to say that's wearing you out and it's taking all you've got to do the basics, you're out of shape. Get yourself back in shape mentally. It's a mental issue. But regardless of the scenario, because there's always exceptions, right? Some people are disabled, they can't work, things like this. But overall, the people that don't have any excuse, it's up in their head. And quite honestly, there's a lot of disabled people making a lot more money than me. So to use it as an excuse, come on. I believe in you. And it's ridiculous to see comments like that from adults. But anyway, here's the FIREBAT laptop. And if this is everything it claims to be, you don't have to have a lot of money, to be able to spend under $400 and have a fully working system under warranty. That's not a budget system. It's a mid-range system. The lower end of the mid-range, but still higher than a budget system. And in some cases, cheaper. I've seen some N150s from Intel that cost more than this. So what's the catch? Let's find out. We do these videos live and unscripted. and I'm experiencing this for the first time. And what will be. I have no control over the outcome, and there is no edit. At least not on the live version. Sometimes we'll put together an edited version, but it takes a long time, and so I'm not too keen on editing. Not my favorite thing to do. So inside, it looks like this is just a shipping box, and then this is the laptop box. Everything is sealed, so we know we're not dealing with a return or a used product. So we'll cut the tape. Oops, just tore the box. Huh. That is some good tape. I don't know why I'm having such trouble with this. Oh, I see. There was a tongue that was stuck in there I didn't remove. Well, now I know. That's all right. Let's see how this is packed. Oh, this is very similar packing to what we've seen from other manufacturers, where you've got a piece of foam protecting the front and a piece of foam protecting the back, just in case the box gets pushed in while it's shipping, you don't get a cracked screen or a damaged battery. Also, I see an instruction booklet in here. Oh, this is a little chunky. I mean, weight-wise, it's heavier than I thought it would be. Okay, we'll put that there for now. And then finally, we've got what I'm guessing is the power adapter and power cord. I don't know if there's anything else. Let's see. That's interesting. That's not, oh, it was wrapped. The wrapper stayed. I'm like, why is there no plastic around it? Unfortunately, there's not a separate power brick. Traditionally, a laptop has a power brick that you would plug a power cable into that would then plug into the laptop. This is more like what you find on budget mini PCs. Why I'm not a fan of this is because of the limited length of cable. I don't know how long this cable is, but I promise you it's not as long as, you know, if we had a regular laptop power brick, it would have a cable coming out and going into the laptop. We'd have a separate cable that you would plug into this side, and that would run to the outlet. If both of those cables are 5 feet, that's 10 feet plus another 6 inches or so for the adapter. That's pretty good cabling. But with this, I'm pretty sure we're not going to get 10 to 12 feet of cable here. It's probably closer to 6. 5. It's 5 feet. So that's too bad. So what that means is when we plug this in, like for me, for example, I got to plug in down here on the floor. And when I plug it in down here, which is right behind me, look how much space I've got. I can't even get to the end of the table. And so it's very easy to trip over that cable because it's not laying on the floor. It's very taut, it's very tight. It's going up at an angle just so I can reach because we don't have enough cable. What are you going to do? I mean, at this price, I can't really complain, but it certainly helps me understand the price a little better. I don't know how much price difference it would make to just give me a proper laptop power adapter. It'd be nice if I had a choice, but it is what it is. It's not a deal breaker. It's just something to keep in mind. And that barrel connector is about half the size of a typical barrel connector. So it's very narrow. Unlike other barrel connectors you've seen me use on mini PCs, they're about twice as wide as this. This is very, very narrow. All right, so basically, all we have in the box is the power adapter, the instruction booklet, and the laptop itself. The laptop looks great. I like the color of it. I like the overall look. I don't know if this is charging. There is a green light on the power adapter showing it's getting power. And then over here, there's an orange light right here that shows the battery is charging, and that probably goes green or blue or turns off when the battery is charged. I don't think it would turn off. I would hope that it would go green or blue. But it's fully expected this battery needs to be charged on a brand new machine. Okay, so it does not turn on automatically when we open the lid. I'm used to that on the fancier laptops. So this must have a power button. Yeah, there it is right there in the corner. We'll push that. Power button, I can't tell if that lights up. No, there's no light behind the power button. Here on the top, you'll see a couple blue LEDs right over here. That's your power indicator, your caps lock key, and your numlock key. There's 3 standard LEDs that are on pretty much all keyboards, are also on above the keyboard on most laptops. Let's take a look at our startup. Hopefully we get a regular out-of-box experience here. And I can try plugging this into HDMI, though I'm not quite sure if video output will be coming out yet. But if it can, you know, I need to turn the laptop around to answer the setup questions, and then you won't be able to see it. So let's see if we can get video out on this. Because it's pretty common for the video out to only work once Windows is loaded. Let's go to HDMI 3 and see if it works. Yes, it works. Very good. So what that means is I can take this laptop and turn it around, right? So I can see and type, and you can see what I'm doing right here. Lovely. So English, United States, that's us. Continue. You notice I'm not plugged into the network, and I'm not going to be. United States is our region, and keyboard method is going to be US with no secondary keyboard. Now there's where it wants to connect. I'm going to say I do not have internet. Whenever you set up a computer for the very first time, whether it's something you built or something you bought, go through the setup experience without an internet connection. I'll just put the username of user. This thing's pretty snappy. It's responding pretty damn quick. There's our security settings. I like to leave the location settings on, and it'll set the date and time for me. I don't have to deal with that manually because it's not 1999 and we're waiting for Y2K. Those days are behind us, folks. Computer can do it all on its own if you'll get out of its way and let it. And that's exactly what I intend to do. So now that I've answered all those setup questions, here we go with the final configuration based on how we answered those questions. Once we get to the desktop, at that point, I can plug it into the network. So let me reach down here and grab my network cable. Let me get ready for this while we're waiting. And let's see, let me put camera 1 in a corner. That way you can see what I'm doing and the screen at the same time. Okay, got my cable. Let me move that over a little bit because it looks like the jack is over here. Yeah, that's it over there. So I'm waiting till I get to the desktop. And if you've been watching my channel, you've heard me do this more times than you can count. If you're new here, this information's for you. And this is a universal truth, regardless of who makes the laptop or the mini PC or the desktop PC, whether you built it yourself, whether it's Dell, it's always the same procedure regardless. Not that the other way won't work, but this way is guaranteed to work. The other way, yeah, you might work, you might not, it might take longer, it might not. I don't want to play around with mights. I want to know exactly what's going to happen and how long it's going to take. So now that we're at the desktop, I can plug this in, and I know that I can now go to Windows Update and download updates while doing other things. If I'm waiting for the updates to process while the computer's in setup, I can't use the computer till it's done, and it takes longer. And if there's any problem, how will I know if the problem was the update or the problem was the computer out of the box? You'll never know. So you enjoy that if that's the road you want to go down because it saves you time. You'll go without me, okay? All right, so here we are. We've got the desktop up here. Let's go to settings, and let's just hit Windows Update. And while it's updating, we'll make a few changes. I like that on. I like to come over here. I like to turn on this. I like to turn on this, and I like to turn on that. under optional updates. So far, nothing's in there. Let's go back. Let's go under delivery optimization. I like to turn that off. If it's an office with multiple computers, I would leave that on. But in a home, I turn that off. And it's already installing some updates. And while it's doing that, let's take a look at our power plan. Edit the power plan, because I don't want the screen to go to sleep on us while we're live. So while it's plugged in, I'm going to let the screen stay on for 2 hours. And I'm going to never put the computer to sleep because there's no point in it if it's plugged in. But when it's on battery, that's a different story. With that done, let's take a look at the specifications here. We'll go to the Start menu, right-click, go to System, and we can verify we have a Ryzen 5 7430U, 16 gigs of RAM, and Windows 11 Home Edition 24H2. That's version 26100.3775. So much like many pre-built machines, this is going to have an older install of Windows. It's not that old, but old enough that there's, it's reasonable to expect to have to do some updates. And do that first before you start configuring your computer and making it yours. Because if it fails, you're going to want to send it back. And any amount of time you spent customizing it, you're going to have to undo it before you send it back, or you potentially give up, private information. So let's not cross that bridge until we get there. Now, more than likely, we're going to get there fine, but we don't really know that. We have a feeling, but I'm not going to base how much time I'm spending on this and how I feel. I want to get it done right the first time. So I go through a series of steps. I don't start at the top step. That would be stupid. I don't want to work that hard. One step at a time, we'll make it to the top of the staircase, okay? We don't need to be trying to jump over the steps and end up hurting ourselves. It's not that important. So what I'm going to do here, there was something I was going to check. Well, let's just go back to settings. Let's go back to Windows Update and we'll see how that's progressing. These updates, they're going to happen whether you allow for it or you don't. You could turn this on and just be a mindless consumer and just start using the laptop. In doing so, you'd be potentially setting everything up just to turn around and have to send the thing back because you haven't verified that it works first. Oh, it's new, it should work. Well, it should, and it probably will, but what if it doesn't? Then you're going to undo all that time you spent for nothing, to just double up your time to undo what you did because you didn't want to go through the process. You're welcome to do it that way. And I don't want to be around you when you do. I don't want to know about it. You have fun. Spend the next 3 days on something that'll take me an hour because you didn't want to spend the time to take an hour. Okay, how does that make sense? I don't get it. I don't have to, but I'm just explaining why I have this process. And as that's installing, let me get over to the chat room, and I have not been able to see it while I've been full screen over here. So let me jump over there and see what is going on and say hello to everybody. I'm a little spicy today, aren't I? Basically, when you have a deal so good that somebody finds something negative to say about it, I am beside myself with just how absurd that people have to be. Like, at some point, it's a joke. But when they're coming across seriously, you're like, you cannot be serious. At this price point, to get a machine like that and not be 100% grateful, I don't have words. I'm just like, are you crazy? Like, are you disconnected from reality? If you can afford better, no one's saying you shouldn't buy better, but can you get a better laptop at this price? And if so, would you please share that information? What's the make and model? Because I would love to know that. That's the whole reason I'm making this video, is for people to benefit from it, not from people to, oh, that's not good enough. That's not why we made this video. If you can say that's not good enough, then you've got deeper pockets than the rest of us. You can have whatever you can afford. But for most of us, to get this much for so little, there's not much to choose from. In fact, I think that's your only choice. But if you know of another laptop at that same price or cheaper that is equipped with a similar processor, RAM, and storage or better, and you're not telling me, I'm not happy about that, because I'm all about transparency. And that's why I bought this. I said, this is too good of a deal to be true. Let's check it out. And so far, I can't find anything wrong with it so far. So we're off to a good start. Let's see. Success of Story says, I love computers. Right on. Well, welcome to the club. John Williams says hello, as does Dustin Fuller and Sean Skinner in our chat room. David Graham and Mark Gaines saying hello, as is Frankie B. And Sajuro says hello, along with Richard DeFries, Luke Greenia, and Jim Kenny. Edward Bass and David Herzog are joining us in the chat. Welcome in, everybody. Gawoon Peter says it's nice that it's still possible without a network. You don't need a Microsoft account. No, you don't need a Microsoft account. That is a common misunderstanding by other content creators that are not technicians. And so they're being fed mis or incomplete information, and they don't do enough research to realize they don't have all the information. And they immediately go and make very clickable content that earns them a lot of money by invoking fear. That is a very good way to earn money. CNN has made millions and millions of dollars doing nothing but selling you fear. And people are buying it up. They can't get enough. 24 hours of news nonstop, day after day, no days off, not even the holidays, to keep you frightened and keep you glued to come back and find out what else to be scared of. People voluntarily subject themselves to that mental torture. I'm not one of them. I don't mind looking at the news, whether it's CNN or Fox or BBC or Sky Australia, whatever it is. It's interesting to me. And like any other content, I have enough, I move on to something else. But I know people that just sit there and watch the news all day, and they're the most miserable people to be around. It's like the modern equivalent of smoking a pack of cigarettes. They can't quit. You say, hey man, you'd be a lot happier if you wouldn't spend so much time watching the news. I like watching the news. So you like being upset and scared. You like complaining and being a victim. That's what you like. Just stop, take a day off, man. They can't do it. Oh, I just don't want to. No, you can't. That's a pack of cigarettes in 2026. Okay, well, you know, smoke them up. Smoke them if you got them. I'm not going to be in the room with you while you do it. I'm not interested in, I don't want secondhand smoke. I also don't want secondhand news. I don't need you to tell me the news. If I wanted it, I'd go get it myself. So these people, they're a special group of people in our culture here in America where they all want to commiserate together and they want me to join in it. And I'm like, I'm not joining in on that. You know, the news doesn't dictate the quality of your life. You get off your butt, you decide to take control of your life. I'm here to support you and back you up. But if you're going to sit there like you're a victim and you're helpless and you're just watching the news every day to get more victimized and helpless, I feel sorry for you. That's how you're going to go through your life. But you have every right to do it, and I have every right to have no respect for that. I just feel like that's childish. But I have a right to think that. And if somebody feels that's offensive, well, I feel equally offended that you're so easily manipulated by the media and you can't exercise any self-control to just take a day off. And the justifications people will use is insane. It's just like talking to somebody addicted to cigarettes. It's exactly the same. And I'm not sure what we're going to do in society to resolve it. I can just hope that one day mankind as a whole will wake up and smell the coffee and realize we've had enough of it. But until that time, CNN is raking in the millions. It's out of my hands, but I don't have to participate. That part is in my hands. Well, Microsoft would like you to believe you need a Microsoft account. It has never been the case ever in the history of Microsoft that an account was absolutely required. They want you to believe it, but it's just like Synology wanted you to believe you had to use their hard drives, and it wasn't true. And we showed how easy it was to bypass what was an illusion of a lock. It wasn't a real lock. It's like people see something, they see a lock, and they go, well, it's locked, there's nothing I can do. Somebody like me says, let me see this lock. And you find out it's not even a lock. It's a plastic thing. In this example, it looks like a lock. It's supposed to do exactly that, where people won't even try. Why bother trying? It's locked. Well, because that lock may not be real, or it may look closed, but it may be an open lock that's not actually closed. And that's the trick that corporations play on the consumer, is to have you believe, something isn't repairable. Everything is repairable. It's ridiculous. It's not always financially feasible to repair something. But this whole right to repair, unless you're getting sued by the company, like if you're a farmer and you fixed your own John Deere tractor, and now John Deere's coming after you with a lawsuit because you did it, that's a different story. But because you want to fix your own iPhone and you're having trouble finding parts, there's plenty of people on eBay selling broken iPhones, and you can just swap parts. It's not a big deal in most cases. You might have to reprogram some of the chips. And if you think that's too hard, well, too bad. Make your own damn phone. You're voting with your dollars. So stop buying iPhones. If you don't like their process, go buy somebody else's phone. Or make your own phone, or go without one. You'll live. So I'm frustrated living in a society where everybody feels so entitled that they can make the rules when they have no authority. You're just like the rest of us. The same rules apply to all of us, so we're all fine with it. Anyway, regardless of that, we're going to open this up and see how serviceable it is, because at $377, is the RAM soldered in? Can we upgrade it? I have no idea. But let's do the updates first. But we're off to the races on this. Everything looks great. It doesn't look like an inexpensive laptop. If you had this laptop sitting on your desk, I wouldn't know if that's a $500 laptop or a $3,000 laptop. There's nothing about it that looks cheap. And the way it's operating is, I'm clicking on things and they're opening on the desktop. So it's not like a higher end performance or more RAM is really going to help there. Now, depending on the apps that you use and how you use them, that absolutely can make a big difference. That could be or make or break for you. But for normal web surfing, for working remotely, Word, Excel, going online, going to social media, paying bills, booking airline tickets, everything you'd want to do, this easily handles that without even so much as breaking a sweat. So, if you want a computer that's going to, play the best games at the highest resolutions, you need to open your wallet up by about 3 to 4 times more money. And they do make laptops for that, but they're usually quite heavy and have terrible battery life and run very hot. But, it depends how important gaming is to you. And of course, there's some other exceptions like tough books and things like that that are built to withstand abuse in rough environments, and you'll pay more for that too. You're not going to get that on a $400 laptop. Now, that being said, when I say it's a $400 laptop, I'm including sales tax. You may live in a place where there is no sales tax, in which case it's a $377 laptop. And we ordered this was it Monday? I think we ordered it, and it arrived Tuesday morning. It wasn't even 24 hours. And that shipping was free right to my front door. I didn't even have to get in the car and go anywhere. Came right to the front door. Basically ordered it, had dinner, watched TV, went to bed, woke up, it was there at the front door. Do you know how much that would have cost in the 1980s to have that kind of service? That in and of itself would have been $200 in shipping. So we're living in good times. You think these are expensive times? You should join me in 1984. Let me show you what expensive times look like. And let me show you how doing without is actually not a sacrifice at all, because it forces you into engaging your time into other things that are more natural. In other words, you could go walking, you could go exploring, you could walk around the mall, window shopping. You can just enjoy your time, enjoy time with friends. It doesn't cost anything, and it results, looking back on it, on a much richer experience than this artificial stuff. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, but there should be a balance. Too many people are swinging to one side or the other to my level of comfort. And I probably spend way too much time on a computer, but I have a sick mind that says if I do that, I make more money. Which is true, but at the same time, it would be like it would be like somebody is paid to test out drugs, and I'm not a drug addict. I'm paid to test drugs. Okay, but you can be both, and that's effectively what I've done. I love computers, and I'm kind of addicted to them, and I found a way to make money from it. So I don't have any motivation to lose my addiction, or I lose my motivation to earn a living. It's pretty twisted, and it's probably not mentally the best place to be, but I'm enjoying it. I really enjoy it, and I get paid. So I'm not going to a job I don't like, and I'm not joining in rush hour traffic and doing what everybody else is doing. I get to carve my own path, and I was just born that way. My mother says, you know, I thought people were raised to be like you, but you just came out of me like that. You know, you were very picky, and you wanted things your way, and you didn't care how anybody else did anything. You wanted it the way you wanted it, and that's the way you've always been your whole life. So basically, my mom and my dad said, we don't know where you got that from, but it didn't come from us. Well, thanks. Neither one of you will take accountability for me. I'm your kid, and you're like as confused as I am. You know, what is that drive? We don't know. Your other siblings are like this. It's just you, and we didn't do it to you. That's just the way you were made. Okay, so I have no excuse for it. I don't know why anybody would choose differently, because it doesn't enter my mind. My mind doesn't work like that, where it's a good option to sit around and do nothing and just be a victim all day. And I guess maybe it's genetic. Maybe it's just something I was born with. But I will say, living in the 80s and going without, well, watching rich people with cell phones that we could never afford was never, ever going to be in our life. We just learned to accept that and move on. And we didn't miss having a cell phone in the 1980s. Never missed it. So, well, it was nice, you know, to think about what it was like to drive the convertible Mercedes with the phone in it. We knew that wasn't going to happen in our life. We didn't see a path, at least I didn't see a path that someday that'll be me. Nope. That was so far ahead of where we were. You know, we just wanted to make sure we had food. We wanted to make sure that, you know, we could get out of the 115-degree weather when we had no air conditioning that worked, when we had an evaporative cooler that was miserable. In the wintertime, we didn't have any heat, so we'd plug in an electric blanket, and we were fine. I was warm. It's fine. I don't want to go back to those days, but everything's gotten cheaper. You know, Dad used to go around switching lights off to rooms we weren't in, because that cost money. Now people leave lights on all the time, and these LED bulbs are brighter, whiter, run cooler, and use a fraction of the electricity of an incandescent bulb. You can leave them on all day for a week, and they probably wouldn't generate an electric bulb like an incandescent bulb would do in a day. And they don't need to be changed out as often. They'll last about 10 years, these LED bulbs. Those incandescents, they might last a week, they might last 3 or 5 years. You never quite knew what you were going to get. But it was a regular routine to get out a ladder or a chair and change the light bulbs, which we don't have to do anymore. It's pretty rare anyway. So things have gotten so much easier. To hear people complain about it is so bizarre to me. Do you understand how far we've come and how cheap everything is now, that we can all start living like rich people? We can all afford to have a taxi called Uber. We can all afford to have delivery, have a food go right to our front door with Uber Eats and DoorDash. That wasn't even a thing in the 80s. If you wanted to eat, go get it. We couldn't afford delivery. The only thing you could get delivered was pizza. And even then, we couldn't afford it. So look at how accessible everything is to the average person. And it's no wonder they don't have any money, because they're spending all this money on nonsense that we never paid for back in the 80s. But it's nice to live like rich people. I like it. But at the same time, I'm not driving a Rolls Royce, and I'm not wearing a Rolex, because I can't afford them, and I'm not willing to make the sacrifices I would need to make to get one. It's not that important to me. So you may not need to have an Alienware laptop. That may be that all you really need is this, and you're caught up in the lifestyle idea of it, not in the practical use case. I think for most computer owners, this laptop would be better than what they have at home now, just in general. And it's okay to want, to have ambition and to say, I don't just want mid-range, I want the best. That's a healthy attitude, as long as you're willing to put the effort forth. But if the reason that you're saying that is that you can feel victimized that you can't have it, that's just a bad attitude. That's fixed up here. That's nothing wrong with society. You have to look in the mirror to find the answer to that problem. But I think if you're reasonable, you can realize what a great value something like this is and how much better it is than probably what you paid more for that you're using now. Just because it's modern, it's under warranty. But I'm making an assumption here that I'm hoping the testing today will prove out to be a good, solid recommendation. I can't talk to you about FIREBAT support. I don't know how good it is. This is only the second FIREBAT product we've looked at, so it's a new company to me, but it's got to start out well, right? Does it feel like it's made well? It does. Is it priced well? It is. Does it have a good warranty? I think it's a 1-year warranty. I don't know. We can look into that. Now, if you want to go ahead of us and look in the video notes below this video, you can pull the links up and see if you can pull that information and let me know in the chat room what you see there. So, in any event, oh, I was going to tell Frankie, so the batteries came in today. The batteries did not come in yesterday, which is what I was afraid of. So I have not yet finished your computer, Frankie, but after today's show, Frankie sent his mini swarm in. He's having a bizarre problem with it. I believe we've got it resolved, but he's got a flat, dead battery, BIOS battery, in the mini, and I ordered some spare ones. They just arrived today, just before the show. So after the show, I'll put a battery in it, assuming I got the right ones, and see if that resolves all the problems. So I'll have some news for you after the show at some point later tonight or tomorrow, Frankie. And thanks to Frankie for sending that in, because that was a real interesting diagnostic, which you can watch on, if you're a member, on Monday's show. If you're not a member, there's really nothing to show to the public because I'm not real sure how I fixed it. But it's an interesting diagnostic and repair. And I've rewatched it and I still can't figure out what the heck is the solution. That's what's frustrating. Even being able to replay what I did, it still doesn't make any sense. It's not clear to me what I did. So if we start seeing some more computers coming in with invalid boot certificates between now and July, the boot certificate issue, if it exists, should rear its ugly head in that window. After that, that ship sailed and we'll never see it again. Just like Y2K. If a computer was going to have a Y2K problem, we're going to know about it just prior to or just after the turn of the year. And for the most part, it was a big nothing. And this secure boot issue may be a big nothing too. We'll wait and see what happens. But I need another secure boot issue for me to test one of two theories that fixed it. And until or if that happens, I just don't know. But I know that one of the two things definitely had an impact on resolving it, but I just don't know which one it was. So if you want to watch that, be a member and watch Monday's video. And that's a little gift to our members for all the gifts they give to us, including this laptop, so that we can do these videos for the general public. And the general public, you're not obligated to pay a thing for these videos. But these videos would not exist without the members. So once one goes away, the other one goes away. And that's how it works, at least currently. I would love to get back to a type of advertising that pays for everything, because it paid me a lot better and we had a lot more opportunity. But we're also not going to just throw in the towel and give up. I'm not a victim. We fight back. With your support, with you guys behind me, you can see we're doing just fine. We don't have to be manipulated by YouTube's algorithm. We don't have to be manipulated by a corporation telling us what we have to do or say. We can continue to do this our way and review the products we want to review under no obligation, to be fully transparent, impartial, and unbiased. That's a tough balance right now, and not possible without the support of the members. So I hope everybody who's not a member can at least appreciate the existence of this video being made possible by the members. That's all I'm asking, just a little appreciation. You don't have to be a member, but at least appreciate the members we have. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this video because it wouldn't exist. So a shout out to all our friends in green. Frankie says, thank you for the update on the minis form repair. He watched the video and he can't figure out what I did either. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's all caught live on camera, so I don't know what it was, but we can find out the next time, if there's a next time, a secure boot error comes up and I get that sent to me for diagnostic. At that point, I have a better idea where to start and what to try and to separate the two things out so I can know immediately which one's having the impact. At that point, then I can make a public video and say, here's how you fix this problem. But I can't do that right now because I'm not real sure, even though I fixed it. Just not sure how I did it. We're just about done. We got a security update that's installing. We'll reboot, and then we'll likely see like a 25H2. I don't know that I want to continue to use up all the time in the video to wait for these updates. You know as well as I do, these updates take a while. And it doesn't matter if you've got a $10,000 computer or a $400 computer. That's just Microsoft. It just takes a while on everything. So what we'll probably do just for to try and get this done in one video is after this set of updates, we reboot again and then shut it down. Let's open the back of it and see how upgradable it is. And then we can also run Crystal Disk Mark and see the performance. They say it's just Gen 3, so you know, it should be fine. It's not going to be earth-shattering or record-breaking. You know, we'll probably be around 2,500 megabytes a second or something. And at this price point, that's pretty generous. We've seen more expensive mini PCs still shipping with SATA M.2s that run at 550, which is very upsetting to me. But it is what it is. And it's hard to be upset when the price is low. But when the price is low and they're putting an NVMe in, not a SATA drive, that's extra bonus. So we're going to verify all that here on the reboot. In the meantime, if you have any questions about this, let me know, and I'll do what I can to provide an answer for you. Or if there's something you want me to look at during today's video, please tell me so I can take time to do that. Michael Lavelle said a PayPal. Oh, let's check email. This is a good time to do that. Michael Lavelle sent $10 via PayPal. He says this is for the channel. Well, thank you, Michael. And that, again, it helps us very much because when you do that, YouTube's not taking that big 30 or 45% cut. They're not making us wait 30 to 60 days before we get it. And that makes it immediately available to us if we want to make a purchase on Amazon. And it looks like I have a package at the front door. So let me go grab that while we're waiting. I'm going to just go full screen here for a moment. I will be right back in just a second. I'm afraid that might be some of Mara's treats, and I don't want them melting in the weather. Oh, those are treats for Jimmy the dog. Hold on a second here. Okay, took care of that. That was confusing. How are we doing? 85% on the install. Okay, any questions that you want me to look into on this laptop? This will be the time to tell me. Mark Liebowitz said, Kerry, I watched your diagnostic of Frankie's mini PC 3 times. BIOS screen changed after you transplanted the EFI from the Windows flash drive. You landed on a blue screen page and pressed the key to go into a BIOS. See, that's what I think too. I think it was something to do with the install, the Windows 11 installer. But I'm just not 100% certain that what does that have to do with getting us into the secure boot options? If that is the fix, then I got to reverse engineer that to figure out why that's the fix. But at this point, I just don't know. But I appreciate your observation, because that was my observation too. Also, thank you again, Michael, for your PayPal contribution. Montana wants to know, do laptops have RAID support? Well, every laptop manufacturer can make anything any way they want. So there is no rule or law that says a laptop can't have RAID support. You likely will not find that on a budget laptop. That's usually a high-end feature. My car doesn't have a built-in umbrella built into the car door. In fact, I've never owned a car where you can open the car door and there's an umbrella that you just pull out of the side of the door in case it's raining. It doesn't rain much here in Phoenix, but you know where it rains a lot? In England. And do you know who makes a car like that? The English. And do you know what that car is? It's a Rolls Royce. You open the door of a Rolls Royce, there is an umbrella inside the door that just, it fits right between the door panels. And it's a feature you get when you spend that kind of money on a car. So if you said, do cars have umbrellas in the doors? Some cars do, but they're not going to be your budget car. So to answer your question, there can be laptops that have RAID. Absolutely. I wouldn't expect this one supports it. In fact, I don't think this one has more than one M.2 slot, but we'll open it up here and we'll verify that. People used to use RAID by taking two hard drives that were pretty slow and pretty small in capacity, and then having them act as one that was twice as big and twice as fast. But the slowest NVMe drive is 5 times faster than a mechanical drive. You'd need to have 5 drives to equal one NVMe drive at the very minimum. So the idea of using RAID with NVMe doesn't really make much sense, because the capacities in NVMe are there now, and the speed is far better than any mechanical. And I think outside of mechanical drives, you shouldn't be using RAID on NVMe drives unless you have a very specific use case scenario, like you have an NVMe-based NAS, which is one of the most expensive NASs you can buy. Because by the time you populate a NAS with 8 4 terabyte NVMe drives, you're in over $3,000 plus the cost of the NAS. For the rest of us, we can achieve much greater storage capacities with a regular NAS using regular hard drives. They're much cheaper, and we're limited by the bottleneck speed of the network, or if we're on Wi-Fi, you know, it doesn't matter how fast your drives are anymore. So I think the days of RAID on a laptop or a desktop are an old school mentality carried over from the days when there was no such thing as NVMe, there was no such thing as an SSD. But now that there is, the added benefit of going from 7,000 or 10,000 megabytes a second instead of 120, and then doubling that to 20,000 megabytes, it makes milliseconds of difference. And it puts your data in severe jeopardy, because if you lose one of the drives in a RAID 0, you've lost everything. It's just like having a failed drive. I hope you have backups. So for me personally, unless it's a NAS, I have no interest in using RAID unless we're going back to 1995. In 1995, it made a big difference in speed and capacity of your storage. Today, even if you did that today with mechanical drives, they still don't come close to the speed of your cheapest NVMe drive. The cheapest NVMe drive is at least minimally 5 times faster and up to 50 times faster than a mechanical drive. That means for you to be able to see those kind of speeds from a mechanical drive, you'd need 50 of them in a RAID 0. And if any one of them failed, the whole thing's gone. So for me personally, I don't consider RAID anymore other than as a way to harm myself for psychological purposes, that I have the idea that I'm seeing benchmark numbers that are great, but in reality, they don't translate out to any difference, or it's a negligible difference that's not worth the risk and the cost. So whether or not a machine supports RAID for me, I don't care. I honestly won't use it. But if it's a network attached storage device, that's the only way I'll use it is with RAID. I won't use it any other way. But not on my computer. Too risky, too cumbersome, too difficult to repair when it breaks, too much potential data loss, too much power consumption, too much heat, and too much money. Andy wants to know how this case feels. It's plastic? Is it flexing? How are the keys? Well, I mean, I've got a 10 key over here, which is good. It's a regular full-size keyboard. Let me open up Notepad. Let's try typing on it. Bring up Notepad. The touchpad doesn't, it's not haptic, you know, it doesn't click or anything, but it's fine. I don't see any problem with it. I could take that or leave it, quite honestly. Let me look away and let's see. Having never typed on this keyboard like this before, close my eyes. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dogs. Should be A through Z. I don't know if I typoed any of that. Let me try it again. The quick. See, here's the thing. If I slow down, I'll probably do a better job. Turn my head away. The quick. Felt that one. Yeah. I gotta open my eyes and cheat. Start again. Capital T. The UUICK space BROWN space FOX 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 JUMPED space OVER space THE space DOGS space. Oh, I didn't type the word lazy. Okay, no, it feels fine. I don't see any problem. I'm not, look, I was raised in a time when you sat at a typewriter. It could be a mechanical typewriter, it could be an electric typewriter. You didn't get to choose your keycap feel. That's the typewriter. You adjust your finger strength to type on that typewriter. The idea today that people care about how sensitive their fingers are to the buttons is silly to me. It's like, it feels like rich people, again, like, oh, those buttons are too hard to press. Really, seriously. So I can pretty much use any keyboard. In fact, one of my earliest computers is an Atari 400. And if you know that computer, it's a flat membrane keyboard. It's not easy to type on. And I did just fine. I was entering entire programs out of Analog Magazine and Antic Magazine back in the 80s so that I'd have a game or a word processor after copying page after page of code, letter for letter, space for space. It didn't slow me down. I mean, maybe it slowed me down a little, but it wasn't like I was deterred from typing because it was a flat membrane keyboard. So when people go, is it a membrane keyboard? Is it a mechanical key? I don't care. I honestly do not care. The one complaint I think is that anybody that has to listen to me type hates if I'm typing on a mechanical keyboard because it gets really loud. Because I type with purpose, you know, I'm hitting the keys with real confidence. And on a mechanical keyboard, that can be very distracting. But I don't personally care. If the key clicks when I press it or I'm just hitting the bottom, either way, it doesn't matter to me. But everybody's got their preferences there. As for the build quality, it feels fine. There's nothing about it that stands out as cheap. I even have a webcam up here, I'm noticing. It's got a little sticker. I'll save that when I can turn this around and show you. It's got a little piece of film covering the webcam. You need to remove that. And then it's got a privacy shutter that you can open and close. I am surprised to see that on a budget laptop. I think my Samsung Galaxy, I don't think has a privacy shutter. That's a $3,000 laptop. So, I mean, I'm not worried about it, but if you were, you could just take a little piece of tape and cover it up. But you don't have to do that on a $400 laptop. But I have to do it on a $3,000 laptop. How does that make any sense? So it's good to be skeptical. The price does seem too good to be true. But Is it? Because I'm not seeing any evidence that it isn't exactly what they say it is. Not yet, anyway. I just want to check to see if any optional updates are available. They are not. While we're waiting, I'll tell you something else we can look at is our device manager and see who's making the network cards. So here under network adapters, we've got Realtek is the Wi-Fi 6 adapter installed with Bluetooth. And Realtek makes the wired connector we're using, that's 1 gig. Easy. Finally, almost done with the security update. Then we'll reboot, shut it down. If everything's okay, we'll shut it down. And then we'll take the back off and take a look at the inside. And then we can also, if you remind me, look at the BIOS, run Cinebench and run Crystal Diskmark. And I think we're going to be about out of time. But at that point, anything else is minutia. Like if you're that picky, don't expect much more unless you're willing to spend much more. That would be my general consensus. Don't be afraid to ask. I mean, I'm happy to, to answer those questions, but I would be in the default mindset of, if you've got to ask those kind of questions, you probably shouldn't be buying a budget machine. But it doesn't mean the budget machine doesn't have it, but I would assume that at that price, if you're going to be that picky, you probably shouldn't be buying something that inexpensive regardless of who makes it. That's just my default setting on that. But we can verify regardless if you have a question. John Downey says, can you open the task manager? I want to see the memory. Absolutely, John. Let's see. Control-Alt-Delete. Where's delete? Oh, top right. Task manager. And our CPU usage, our memory usage, our disk usage, our Ethernet usage, our GPU usage. And yeah, so here's memory right here. It says we're out of the 16 gigs, we're only using less than 8 of it. It says here slots used 1 of 2. So that tells us inside of this laptop, if this is accurate, we've got a regular DDR4 is likely what it is. SODIMM of 16 gigs, leaving 1 slot available to add another 16 gigs to double it to 32 without having to replace it if it were, say, 2 8s. When you have 2 8s, it runs in dual channel, which means your video performance will be a little bit better. But this isn't sold as a gaming machine, and they didn't equip it that way. It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other with regards to, is it better to have a laptop that comes with 16 gigs? To have 1 16 gig module, or is it better if it has 2 8s? I would argue it's better to have the 1 16 gig, because then for you to double your memory, you only have to buy 1 matching module and pop it in. If you have 2 8s, you have to remove both 8s, and then you have to buy 2 16s. That's going to cost twice as much money. You decide for yourself. That's the way my brain works. Or that's the way my brain is broken if you disagree, okay? I'm okay with it either way. Is there anything else you want me to look at while we're in the task manager? Montana said the world's fastest tractor is 153 miles an hour. Who makes that? Lamborghini? That's crazy. The joke there is Lamborghini initially was a tractor manufacturer until Ferrari pissed him off. And then he said, well, Ferrari said something like, why don't you just stick to making tractors and let us big boys, make the sports cars. And, Italians being Italians, shots were fired, and Lamborghini is now all but forgotten with regards to their tractors. Hence my joke. Who makes that tractor that does 153? Lamborghini? If you know, it's a funny joke. John Downey said, using 48% seems high since all you're doing is updating the computer. Except I don't know how intense the update is, right? Microsoft doesn't tell us. That update could be pretty significant in resource requirement. So until we're not doing anything at all and we see where it is idling, I can't agree with you that it's a problem or that it wouldn't be the same on any other machine. Because there's no other task running. How else would you explain that? There's no bloatware on here. There's nothing on here from FIREBAT. So where do you think I guess what I'm trying to get at is if you're doing the same updates as I am with 16 gigs of RAM, why would your RAM usage be any lower than anyone else's? It should be the same for us all under similar updating and similar RAM. I don't think it's high at all. I think that's exactly what any other computer would be using in this scenario. And if you can explain that to me and what reasoning you're using that that's high, how is that high? What would possibly cause one computer to have more RAM usage than another, fresh out of the box, just doing Windows updates? And if you can explain that to me, I would appreciate it, because it should always be the same regardless. You know, depending on the update, obviously. So no, I don't think that's high at all. But when this is done and we reboot it and we get back to the desktop, we can check and look at what the RAM usage is then. And I assume it's going to be the same as any other similarly equipped laptop sitting at the desktop. There's no other software running to use the RAM. So I'm puzzled by your... It's almost negative that you're turning something negative in a way that I can't find any logic in. It's like you just don't want to accept that this is a decent deal and you want to find something wrong with it, or you know something I don't know, in which case, please share it with me, because I can't make heads or tails of saying it's good or bad or unusual. That's a big update. That's the big, the 3769 update. It's pretty, we've been spending this whole time pretty much on this one update. That's not an antivirus update. That's a serious update. And Microsoft doesn't disclose, you know, how much resources each individual update needs. They're not all the same. Johnny Weld said, beware of new updates for Windows 11. There might be some issues. Well, as long as you're online, you'll believe that nonsense. Most of the people that have issues with the Windows updates are people that monkey around with their systems, or IT departments that have monkeyed around with the system in a way that's not Microsoft approved. Then they blame Microsoft. So yes, if you're one of those people that likes to blame Microsoft for the changes you've made, then I agree with you. You should avoid the updates and enter them cautiously. But if you let the computer run the way it's supposed to run and you don't try and outsmart it and you're not following all this terrible advice online, you can get the updates as soon as they come available, and you will very rarely, if ever, have any problem from it. It's absolute nonsense to listen to the people online that are completely clueless that they are more than likely the cause of their own problem, and it's not a Windows update problem. 90% of the time that you have a failure with a Windows update, it's because you've changed something on your system, or you put some unauthorized software on your system that did not come from Microsoft, and you thought you were getting more performance. Whatever your motivation was, you did something the rest of us aren't doing, and then you will join the group of complainers that also did what you did, and then you'll have your own little group of people that all agree Windows updates are terrible, and you're wrong. You guys, in most cases, cause your own problems. Now, I don't care, but let's call it what it is. If you're that kind of person that causes your own problems and you want to blame Microsoft, then I agree with you. Stay away from Windows updates. But if you follow the steps that I demonstrate in this channel for years and years and years, I'll tell you right now, every one of my customers gets those updates the day they're available. Whether they like it or not, those updates go on automatically. And it's pretty rare I have a support call afterwards. But it's not rare to see all the complaints that happen on Twitter and social media from clueless individuals that don't understand what the updates are doing and how what they've done to their computer because they listen to some content creator has resulted in a future problem that would not have happened for anybody else who didn't follow such advice. That's usually the cause of it. So if we can fix the end user, we fix the Windows update problems by 90%. So they still exist. There still are Windows update problems that exist, but they're pretty rare. Microsoft does one hell of a thorough job in beta testing. Thousands and tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of people beta test before that update's released. Microsoft doesn't just code it and say, let's set it loose and see what happens. But people who don't know any better think that's how it works, and they're clueless. It is not how it works. So the fact that somebody somewhere in the world has a problem, or a group of people that all do something similar, share the same issue is not normal, but they can find each other online and they can appear to be quite loud, which gives the impression that it's affecting a lot of people. The truth of the matter is, if you're not seeing something on your local news station about an update, like if the only place you're reading about a bad update is online, it's not a real problem. When a bad update affects a company, like Ford Motor Company, let's say, gets a bad update and their entire production facility shuts down, that's going to make the news. That's going to affect stock prices. It's going to affect availability of the vehicles, and the amount of money Ford is going to lose because they cannot produce is going to be very newsworthy, and likely going to be a lawsuit to go after Microsoft. And when's the last time you've ever heard of such any corporation anywhere on this planet suing Microsoft for a bad update? I mean, where's the common sense? Somebody you don't know with a false name, just a made-up handle on Reddit or on Twitter, wants to make a claim, and then somebody at Tom's Hardware then publishes that as a story based on hearsay from a handful of individuals that remain anonymous? Are you that gullible? You can be, I don't mind. But for the rest of us, if you don't monkey around with the system and you're not trying to make it better by following some terrible advice online, you likely won't have any problems, or the likelihood of it. Again, I said likely. It's the odds of that happening. I can tell you from experience, my clients get those updates every month for years. Once in a while, something happens. Oh, I can't print, or my file preview doesn't work. They're very minor little things we fix remotely. It's not the whole world's ending because I got a bad update and I lost everything. Microsoft hasn't released an update that does that. So that's all just the nonsense here. Just don't read in too much on this online stuff, folks. There's so much bad information. You're much better off assuming what you're reading is not true. You're much better off assuming a content creator giving you information is lying to you. And if it matters enough to you, verify it with an independent verification you do yourself. And if it's a real problem, the company will admit to it. They'll say, we're acknowledging we have a problem. At that point, you verified it. But if that doesn't exist, it's because there's no problem there other than people just refusing to accept responsibility. So I strongly encourage you to not manipulate your registry, to not use any third-party utilities unless absolutely required, and to always get the updates as soon as they're available. You're only going to hear from the whiners, and they make up a very tiny percentage of the number of people that get Windows updates. The vast majority of them never have a problem with them. Or if they do have a problem, it's because they've done something to their system, and that's why their system's, breaking and yours isn't. So just because somebody has a problem with something doesn't mean you're going to have a problem with it too. They have different circumstances. I think Microsoft should charge for the updates. I think the problem is the updates are free. Microsoft pays so much money to their developers and for the distribution of these updates that people dismiss them as valueless and troublesome when Microsoft should be charging you for them. I think updates should cost money. They should give away Windows and say, if you want the updates, you pay an annual subscription. And after you go without updates because you're too cheap to pay for the subscription, and you have your identity stolen because your computer was left insecure, you'll understand the value of those updates and wish they were free. So let's see how society is going to call it. Are we going to force it into a financial situation in order for people to appreciate it? Wait for everything to hit the fan and then react? Or do you want to be proactive and be grateful you're getting the updates for free? Take your pick. Andy said, unfortunately, all of Nemo's prices have gone way up due to the memory costs. Well, that's everybody. That's not just Nemo. He says the Nemo N155 went from a $500 laptop to an $850 laptop. Same as everybody else. They're not any more and they're not any less. The RAM cost is universal regardless. Jose says, thank you. Oh, no, not Jose. It's Joseph. I see. Joseph says, Kerry, thank you for your videos and what you do. I've learned a lot from watching your videos. I like to work on computers and help others in my local area.
but I'm not a pro like yourself. Well, you know, if you want to become a pro, you just keep doing it, get paid for doing it. Days become weeks, weeks become months, months become years, years become decades. At some point, you know, your confidence in your value as a computer technician will be at that pro level. So it's not that you can't do it. You absolutely can, and I would encourage you to do so if it's something that you think is appealing, because I love what I do. I can't even imagine what I'd be doing if I wasn't doing this. I don't think I'd like it as much. So I want all of you to feel that way about whatever it is you do for a living. Nothing worse than going to a job you hate, because you have to. Mark Leibowitz said, Kerry, the FedEx man just delivered the GMK Tech Nookbox M8. I plugged it in, turned it on, and it's perfect. Thank you. Right on, Mark. Thank you for the update. Mark not only is a paying member here supporting us, but he's the one who recommended we test the M8 out. We didn't have the budget for it, but when we did, we looked at it. It seemed like a really good value, even to this day. Although you can get this whole laptop for the same price, that M8 spec'd out a little bit better, but it's not a laptop. It doesn't have a screen or a battery or speakers or a keyboard or a trackpad. Anyway, Mark paid us back what we paid for that, and we used that money to buy another GMK Tech, the K15, which is a bit more money. So again, these videos would not be possible without the members, and that's a prime example right there. And Mark is a computer tech out of Chicago, and he's been selling these GMK Tech M8s to his clients. He feels like they're a really solid value, and he's like, hey, I'll buy it off of you, and that way I'll keep it in my inventory because I will sell it. I don't have a buyer for it yet, but I will. And then we turn around and, you know, we made that deal because we were done with the review, because that went into a 2-part review. We sent it off to him. He got it today. I mailed that on Monday, so from Phoenix to Chicago was 2 days. And on we turned around and used his money that he gave us for that to then buy the K15, which is a review coming up next week. How cool is that? And then we'll sell the K15 and we'll use that money. Usually we sell them at a loss. In this case, we didn't sell it at a loss because Mark was supporting us. And I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to say no. I'm going to sell this at a loss. Normally I have to, right? Why would you buy something from me used when you can go on Amazon and get it for the same price brand new? But that's what Mark did. And that's pretty uncommon, and I really appreciate it. And I'm sure the audience does too, because now we've got, you know, we started with 4 mini PCs. We've already reviewed 3 of them, and I still have 5 more to go because we've been able to flip them around. That's awesome. I love it. So thank you for the update. I'm glad it arrived safely and that it's working. And the way I ship them, they're already updated and ready to go. I'm not offended if somebody wants to reinstall Windows if they don't like the way I do things. To each their own. But I do intend it to be sold as I would to any customer that I have to support with the same configuration I always do, so that when you take it out of the box, if you want to just plug it in and start using it, unless Microsoft has come out with an update between the last couple of days, the only update you should have would be like a antivirus updates. So it should update much faster than this one is. But these companies are too big and at too big of a scale to do what I do. That's just something I can do because I'm such a small operation. So we are, yeah, this is a big update here. So we'll wait for that to finish. We'll get back to the desktop and we'll shut this thing down. And then we'll go ahead and take the bottom off of it. But that is par for the course when you order a computer, regardless if it's a desktop, a mini PC, or a laptop. This is exactly the first thing you should be doing. And the reason I filmed this live is I want you to understand how much time is involved so that you can plan accordingly for knowing what to expect before you settle in and start customizing this computer to be the way you want it to be. Make sure the computer works properly, is updated properly, and that takes time. Even if you built it yourself, the advice remains the same. You've got to be patient and establish a good solid foundation. Otherwise, you're rolling dice, and it could go either way. Short time, you spend it however you want. This is just me showing you how I do it and the logic behind it. Francisco said he's got Windows 10 extended. Yeah, you're fine until October anyway. Lagrinia said, so far I am liking what I'm seeing with this. Oh, because Luke wants to buy this laptop when we're done with it. I just remembered that. Yeah, I mean, look, honestly, I don't see anything wrong with it yet. It's been quiet. We haven't looked at our temps or anything. And I can't blame it for being slow on the updates because, like I already said, you could have a laptop that's $4,000 that this update takes the similar amount of time to. Because Microsoft does it the way Microsoft does it. I mean, we don't have any say. And I know firsthand because I have some pretty high-end equipment here. And one of the things that takes the longest is Windows updates. Otherwise, those machines are screaming fast. I've got a Threadripper with 512 gigs of RAM in it. You think this update runs any faster on that? If it does, all I know is it takes a long time. I've not timed it, but it is what it is. And besides, usually the updates are happening in the background. We don't normally stop everything we're doing to do updates, except when a machine is brand new out of the box. Otherwise, the updates can happen in the background, and it'll just give you a notice. You know, hey, you need to restart your computer. It is, you know, the next convenience, and then the update will finish when you're ready. It's out of sight, out of mind. It's not a big deal. Johnny Weld said he had a patch that kept on restarting the computer, so I went back to the old version. Yeah, I mean, you can absolutely do that. If you want to ignore the problem and put some duct tape on it, what you're choosing to do is to ignore a problem. Your computer still has a problem. If you take and sweep the floor and you sweep the dirt under a rug, the dirt's still on the floor. You've just closed your eyes to it. I don't get paid to do work like that. That's a hobbyist thing people at home do. When you're paid to do a job, you're paid to fix it. So you haven't fixed anything. What you've done is you've swept the dirt under the rug and you said, look, I cleaned, but all you did was hide the dirt. And if you're okay with it, I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong. I can't do that. I can't bill somebody to say, I'll clean your house, and then just sweep all the dirt under the rug and say, yeah, your house is clean. Now pay me. This is probably not going to go too well for me. But that's effectively what you just did. You didn't fix anything. All you did was undid the thing that exposed the damage and said, okay, don't show me the damage anymore. So you just closed your eyes. But the thing is still there. You just don't want to look at it anymore. If you decide you want to fix it, we might be able to help you with that. But if you also say, no, I can't be bothered, that's your machine, you know, or whatever you want. I don't have that choice in my line of work. I fix it. I don't cover it up. Okay, so we're back over at the desktop, and let's take a look here. We probably have more updates waiting, but if I hit Control-Alt-Delete, go back to the task manager and see our RAM usage right now. So we're at about half, a little bit more than half at idle. And as you can see, we have more than half of our RAM available. It's just sitting, not being used. Now, when we use up all the RAM and then you want to complain, I understand. But when we still, even if you think the RAM usage is high, that's a you issue. That's not a computer issue. That's for you to get over it. Because as long as you have more RAM not being used, there's no problem. There's no point in having RAM you're not using. That defeats the point of having RAM. It'd be like going to the grocery store and buying food you're not going to eat. What's the point? Just makes you feel good to open the refrigerator and see it full, regardless if it's all going to be thrown away because you won't eat it. That's psychological. That's not a logical, mindful thing to do. So you're welcome to do that if that's what you want to do, if that's your thing. Again, I can't do that. I don't get paid for making people feel better. I actually have to do something that results in the feel better. I can't just tell a story or oh, there's a hole in the wall and I want you to fix the hole in the wall. So I go over there and I hang a picture over it. Fixed. You understand? There's some things a professional won't do that a home hobbyist will say, good enough. And you're right. For a home hobbyist, that is good enough. But not for this home hobbyist. I don't treat any computer differently than I do for my paid clients. We do it right or just don't do it. That's my attitude. But I'm in a different position. So I take that stuff pretty seriously. Let me go ahead and shut this down and let's open up the back of it. And I don't know how this opens. We're going to find out together. Let me go over to full screen on camera 1. And power light just went out. So let's unplug everything here. We'll take that out of there. Unplug HDMI. Is the battery still charging? Oh, the light is no longer orange or amber. Now the light is blue, so that tells us our battery's at 100%. I don't know the battery life on this. I imagine depending on what you're doing, if you're like watching Netflix, it probably gets a pretty good battery life versus if you're, doing something more resource intensive. And that's true of all batteries. Looking on the bottom, let's go to the close-up camera. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 screws. Is there one underneath? This little piece of tape that indicates whether or not you opened it is not going to violate any warranty in the United States, nor does it say it will. Some people might assume that incorrectly. And it looks like it peels off pretty easily, and you could open this up. Yeah, there's a screw there. And we could put the tape back on it. They would never know anyway. But even if they did know, it is completely against the United States law to deny a warranty simply because somebody opened up a product. Now, if you did something to it that broke it while you had it open, then they can deny the warranty. But just the act of opening it cannot deny a warranty in the United States. They can put all the stickers they want on it. It doesn't make a difference. Let me get out my little toolkit that has a variety. This is made by a company called Nanch. It's a much more affordable option to iFixit. I love my iFixit tools, but I also think this is a much better value. So let's, instead of having 6 different iFixit toolkits with different tools for different repairs, I just have this one toolkit that's pretty universal, except it doesn't come with any spudgers or stuff. Let's see, we're looking for a Phillips screwdriver, so that one right there ought to be about right. Oh, these glasses that I'm wearing, these are great for reading the screen, to read the chat room, but not good for close-up work. For that, I need my readers, or cheaters as they're sometimes called. Oh, now I can see. Okay. These are super tiny, so we'll just take these out, and I just put them in order that I remove them. And having that magnetized tip really helps a lot to get the screws out because they are so small. And there is a little magnetizer here, so if we want to make sure that that's charged up, oh, that's a lot better. Get a fresh charge on that. 1, 2, 3. Hello.
Hello.
Mara was away on an errand and just got home. If you're wondering why you're not seeing her in the chat room, I'm sure she'll jump in there shortly when she gets settled in. See how I'm placing these screws in the order that they come out? And that way I don't have to worry about if any screw is longer or has a different pitch, and then try and figure out why it won't go back in. If I put them all back in the same holes, there's no downside to that. Sometimes the manufacturer uses all the same size screws, and no sooner than I say that, you can see these two in the middle are much, much longer than the rest. And if you're not paying attention when you remove them, it can really make putting it back together confusing when things don't go back right. And you know, I don't need a special magnetized mat. I don't need to have any special equipment to just set it down on the table in an organized manner, because we didn't have that stuff in the 80s, you know? So we learned how to do this without it, and we're much more independent and not requiring special tools and stuff. If I learned with special tools, I'd probably need those special tools. See, here's a third. That's a different size than this, which is a different size than that. And so instead of trying to remember which hole did that go into, I just put them in order that in the row from left to right or right to left that they came out. See, all these other ones are real little. So it looks like the 2 center screws and the 2 hinge screws are the ones that are different. Now, as long as you're cautious and you don't knock the screws off the table, everything's good. All right, so that is all of the screws. And now we need a way to separate this edge. So I will grab the plastic spudging tool from the iFixit toolkit, but you can use a guitar pick, or I don't know, there's lots of different things you could substitute for a spudger. You could even go online to Amazon. They're very inexpensive. And they usually sell them in kits of multiples because they do easily damage. And the idea is that you damage the spudger and you don't damage the plastic or the material that you're trying to separate. And it's just really hard. Sometimes I found with laptops, there's a ridge, very common, right back by the hinge. And this one does have that ridge. I feel it. And just using my hands, maybe I can pull up. Oh, it's in there pretty tight, but maybe that's at least the separation to get the spudger in there. Maybe. Let's see if we can find the little clips just by wiggling the spudger, rather than using brute force and ripping this up, which may break some of the clips, which I don't want to do. And look at that. So a credit card that you're not using, a loyalty card from a store, anything, a guitar pick, and just wiggle it around in there. I can't see where the clips are, but you can kind of feel for it. And then, you know, if I kind of gently raise on this, pull on this, just to see if it unclips easily. If it's not unclipping easily and you force it, you will likely break that clip. Now, I think this has enough screws in it that it probably won't make much difference to lose a clip here or there, but I would prefer not to break any of them. It's a sense of pride for me. Now, the older the laptop gets, the more brittle the plastic gets. And there may be not much you can do at that point, no matter how gentle you are. You may inevitably get some plastic clips broken. But with all those screws, I would argue the plastic clips probably aren't even needed. So right here, I'm getting caught up, and what I'm going to do is come at it from the other side. Sometimes it's just that easy to get around right there. See that? And the whole thing just lifts up. No struggle, no force. Nice and easy. Now, when we look inside of this laptop, and we point out a few things that I'm seeing. We have one single fan. That's it. And that's going to cool off the CPU. We have a Wi-Fi card right here that is easily switchable. So if you want to upgrade or change out your Wi-Fi card, it's right there. Windows said we were using one RAM socket and had one available, and Windows was correct. There's the RAM socket we're using. It's got some thermal tape covering it up here. And I don't see a manufacturer name. Let me turn this RAM module around and see if it's labeled on the other side. It is. Let me bring it up to camera 1. And I'll show you guys all the detailed specs. One of the things you're going to find is a lot of unknown manufacturers with the RAM and SSD shortage. Companies are going to cheaper manufacturers that may be companies you've never heard of before. That doesn't mean it's bad. And as long as you match these specifications, it shouldn't matter if the RAM is made by the same company or not. So if we wanted to throw another 16 gig, this I believe is DDR4. Yeah, it's 3200 speed. That would be DDR4. So these are our two RAM sockets, right? And they had the RAM in this one right here. And then we have one NVMe drive right there. And there's no place for a second NVMe, so therefore, going to the earlier question of RAID, you'd need to have at least 2 drives for that to work. So that's not an option. And again, it's not an option I would recommend in 2026 anyway, unless it's a NAS. There's your left and right speakers. And then the battery, I thought it looked a little puffy, but it isn't puffy at all. It's just these are the cells. There's a cell here, a cell here, and a cell here, and they're not puffed up at all. That's pretty much all there is to it. Battery is easily replaceable. You're just going to pull that cable, take out a few screws. Assuming you could buy this battery, maybe on Amazon if we searched. We got a part number. Kind of interested in the way that the battery's actually been installed wrong. That's interesting. A very minor little detail, but leave it to me. Let me bring it back over to camera 1 and I'll show you what I'm seeing here that's a little disconcerting on a brand new laptop. Whoever put this battery in at the factory is working way too quick. If you look right here, this is all bowed. Do you see how bowed that is? See how it goes up like a bridge and comes back down? When this battery goes in, not only does the battery have screws that hold it down, it also has these plastic tabs. I think that's on the battery. And if you notice that plastic tab, see, look at this plastic tab. See how it sits on top? Look at the one on the other side. See how it sits on top? This plastic tab is sitting underneath. It's different. One of these things is not like the other. So whatever that is should be sitting on top of this. I am surprised it left the factory like that. Can you see? That one right there is underneath. These are above. I wonder if I can fix that. Is that part of the battery? It looks like it is. It's not hurting anything, but it's not done right. So again, as a hobbyist going close enough, nobody's going to know. But as a professional, if you have any pride in the work you do, if it ain't done right, then it ain't done. So rather than looking to point blame, let's just fix it. To do that, we'll take out this screw here. Let's go back to camera 2. Take out that screw that's holding the battery in. There it goes. And I'm going to set these screws over here because I don't want to confuse them. I don't know if that's attached to the battery or if it's under the battery, but I'm going to find out here. Now, all of these screws that hold the battery in should all be the same, so I don't necessarily have to take them out in any particular order. And it looks like we've got four screws, one on each side, and then one at the bottom on each side, so for a total of 4. Yeah, and unfortunately for me, that piece of plastic is a part of something else. Holy cow, can you really see that? Look at the bow. How did I not notice that before? Unless somehow I did that when I took the bottom off, that is significantly bowed. See it dip down right there? That's okay. It's an easy problem to fix. I just need to see how that sits. So I'm taking this piece of plastic and I'm pulling it towards me and pushing it down. That's all I had to do. So this battery did not need to come out. Easy. Now I'd have to go back and look at the video to see if I did that when I was taking the spudger. Did I get the spudger under there and accidentally lift that up, or was it that way out of the box? Well, guess what? It's like crying over spilled milk because we've already fixed it. So I guess it doesn't matter anymore, but there's just that curiosity. So while I've got this apart, is there anything you want me to look at before I put it back together and we can run some tests? I guess the yellow thingy is a CMOS battery. Yes, that right there is the CMOS battery. You are correct. Once again, they're using the taped up batteries instead of a proper battery holder. I'm not a fan of that because it makes them more difficult to replace, but they are cheap and easily found on Amazon. You just got to make sure you match the end connector correctly. That's the tricky part. What I'm thinking is when I was taking the bottom off with the spudger, we were hung up right here. And it's possible that even though the spudger's further back than that clip, that I put enough pressure on that plastic piece to cause it to bend and to then for that piece to slip under. Because I don't think it was that way when it was new out of the box. I think I would have noticed that. So I think I did it. Regardless of who did it, I'm fixing it. That's the one consistent thing. We're always going to fix it, regardless of who's to blame. So we've got a little heat shield on this, and this is also facing upside down if we want to take a look at who makes this drive. Again, don't be surprised if it's an unfamiliar name. It doesn't make it bad, and it's all covered under the manufacturer's warranty. Even if it were made by Corsair or somebody, it would still be covered by the manufacturer, not by Corsair. So whether or not you get name brand components doesn't really matter anymore. Okay, we'll slide that out. Oh, there's no name on this at all. This just says, it's got a sticker, it says FIREBAT, and then a line is crossed over 2025, and then a line is crossed over 12. Does that mean it was December of 2025 when it was made? And then underneath this heatsink, no stickers, no identifiable anything on it. And you can see, to get just to 1 terabyte, you just add 2 more of these chips. These are the memory chips, the NAND modules. We've got 2 of them. These are 256 apiece. That's your 512. And then down here at the front of it, this will be your controller down here. And then you've got some micro transistors and things, which I would have to have a microscope to even be able to identify what those are. Guess this needs to go down a little bit further. All right, let's just put this back on. So we'll slide that in right here. Now, what's interesting is this has the, what do they call that, a B key? That would imply it's SATA. But it says it's NVMe on the website. That's pretty unusual to see the 2 cuts, to see the 2 holes, unless it's SATA. Well, that's what the testing's for. We can find out exactly what that is. Could be a manufacturer not following the standard, which is what I'm hoping at this point. But again, at this price point, I wouldn't be surprised if it was SATA. And I don't want the tape underneath this. No, you know what? It's fine. We can leave it under there. Okay. Let me look in the chat room, see if we have questions while I've got this open. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and button it back up. We'll start testing. FIREBAT specs say the battery is non-removable. Well, in the sense that laptops used to have an external battery access where you could slide a switch and the battery would come out. This is pretty normal these days. And I think FIREBAT is misusing the explanation. I think it's probably an English translation issue, because clearly the battery is very removable, but you have to take the bottom off. You've got to use screws, but that's pretty much true of all laptops today. But I appreciate you pointing that out, because we can send an email to FIREBAT and let them know this information just to help them out. Lagrinia says, from the FIREBAT site, it says the channel RAM slots are upgradable to 64 gig. That's right, to be 2 sticks of 32. The expandable M.2 SSD slot is NVMe or SATA up to 2 terabytes. That's the slot, but what's the drive? Because I thought it said it was Gen 3. I thought it said the drive included was Gen 3. And the only way you're going to get the Gen 3 is if you're NVMe. But that drive has the 2 slots, which implies it's SATA. Which one is it? There's one way to know for sure. Let's put it back together, turn it on, and do the testing. I don't see any further questions, so we march on. Back to it then. Welcome to the Lion's Den. Snap that down. Just go right along those edges, listen for the clicks. There we go. And then the screws are just there to secure it. I mean, it's pretty secure without them. Might be a little overkill there, but that's all right. And I'll just put these back in the reverse order that I took them out. And I need my magnifying glasses so as I can see. There it is. There's one. I'm just going to go right back through the chain in the order that I set them on the table. Then I don't have to remember which holes had the short screws, which holes had the long screws, and which holes had the ultra long screws. I don't even have to think. Just follow the pattern I've laid out for myself. And I can daydream about other things while I'm mindlessly putting in screws. I can think about all the things I've got to do after the show today. Because this is pretty mindless. And that's okay. It's very temporary. We'll get through it very fast. Just a little step like that while you're taking it apart makes putting it together so much faster and less frustrating. Now these screws on the edges kind of go in on an angle that matches the angle here. If you try and put them in straight, they won't tighten down right and they'll stick up. For home users, they might say good enough. I don't condone that attitude. Good enough is fine for horseshoes and hand grenades. Close enough. Today you have to explain what horseshoes. What's the game of horseshoe? How does that work? Oh boy. That's how you know you're getting older. People think you're talking another language. And you're like, how do you not know this? I didn't grow up in the 1980s? Oh. All right, and then we've got the final 4, which again, these are going to be on an angle. And that magnetized tip is very important. Getting them started, sometimes that's the hardest part. Once you get the first couple threads in there, then it's easy. Don't over tighten these. You're just going plastic here, so we don't want to crack the plastic or strip out the brass fitting that they're screwing into. So once you feel that snug up and it won't turn anymore, don't force it any tighter than that. At some point you're going to want to open this again, and it'll be your own fault. You can't get the screws out without stripping them because you over tightened them, and you will have done that to yourself. So I'm advising you, plan for the future. Don't leave the screws loose, and don't over tighten them. So all that means is once they get in there and you'll start feeling the tension, they do eventually come to a stop. Right there, that's it. I'm not going to torque that any harder than that. It's not going to come loose just from vibration. It's too tight for that. But it's not so tight that when I want to open this up in the future, that I'm just going to cam out the heads. With that, oh look, I've already scratched. How did I scratch this up? There's scratches. Did I do that? Let me show you. Hold on, let me bring this up to the camera. I wouldn't think my table did that, but maybe it did. Probably a good idea to lay a towel down or something soft when you work on this stuff, because some people, depending on your customer, could throw you under the bus for stuff like this. But I didn't look at it closely before I started, and it doesn't look like the camera's picking it up either. But right here, if we look at the right angle, can't really see it in the camera. I don't like how easily that's scratched up, because if you're putting this in a bag and taking it with you on the go, and all I did was have it face down on the smooth table, I don't think that's going to wear very well. Now, if you're not moving it around constantly, it's just mostly sitting on a desk, obviously that's not a concern. And then I have to wonder, should I bother putting the little sticker back on it just to play the little game? Or I can just leave it off. A lot of good that does. And of course, we've got our identifiable information here with the serial number, support at firebatpc.com, firebatpc.com website. DC input is 19 volts, 3.42 amps, although it does not show us polarity. And then they've got QR codes for their YouTube channel and their website. When I look for reviews on this, and I would encourage you to do so, almost all the reviews are by a channel called FireBat. Gee, I wonder if they might be biased. And then all the other reviews I found are all AI-generated reviews that don't show the actual product or people. They're just pictures and narration. Some manufacturers, I don't know why. I don't know if they have any say in that, or if that's just some content creator doing it. I suspect it's not. I suspect it's paid for, but it's disingenuous because it's not a real, none of those are real reviews. As far as I know, we're the only one to do a real review on this. I don't know why. Well, I think I know why. The most likely reasoning is because FireBat isn't sending them out for free to reviewers. But since we're not counting on that, we're not like most reviewers. We go and buy what we want to review. And that's likely why we're the only ones that have a real review on it. Remember what I said, there's deals going on in the background for most large tech channels that you don't know anything about, and they don't want you to know anything about. Because if you did know about it, you probably wouldn't trust the review as much, knowing that there was money exchanging hands. So the company doesn't want you to know that, the content creator doesn't want you to know that. And the content creator isn't violating any contract with the viewer. They're not saying everything you're seeing is unbiased and I'm not getting paid. They just don't talk about it. So if it's not talked about,
It's whatever you imagine it to be. So if you imagine it's a real review, then that's fine with the content creator. I tend to imagine, unless it's otherwise proven, the default for me is it's paid for. Unless it's been stated otherwise, where the content creator says, this video is not being paid for, I would assume it is being paid for otherwise. And that's fine. Just disclose it. That's all I'm saying. Either way, if it's paid for or not paid for, disclose it. And then you as a viewer can gauge the review, accordingly to how you feel about it, that scenario. All right, let's plug this back in. We'll turn back on. Let's run some tests, and then we'll wrap it up for today. We're probably going to be out of here by 4 o'clock, so we're going to run a little bit long. I am used to laptops that just turn on when you open the lid, but this one, kind of old school. You got to hit the button. I see the light come on, so we're going to boot up. While that boots, let me grab the HDMI cable. We'll plug that back in. We'll put that, I guess it goes on this side. Finally, one's on the right side. I appreciate it. It's the left side. But the left side is the correct side to be with the streamer. I'm not wrapping it around the machine like normal. All right, that was bound to happen sooner or later, things to go my way. Let's go to my utilities flash drive. And let's copy over the benchmarks. There it is. That's the blue port, the fast one. So we'll plug it into the fast port. And then let's go to this desktop over here, which should be on screen. Perfect. And open the folder. Let's do CPU-Z, because there is some question as to some of the CPUs. If you recall in the news, in the PC news, there were a number of machines going out with, I think, labeled as this processor that were actually not the processor. And CPU-Z will identify the truth, the latest version of CPU-Z. Let's see if we actually have this CPU they say we have. Yes, so it's right there, 7430U. That's the right one. Some companies, I can't remember who was at fault for this, but they're still selling product that say they have, and I don't remember if it's this processor, but it's an AMD Ryzen, it's a couple years old, and it's been mislabeled. And some content creators have found it, started talking about it, others verified it, and then CPU-Z came out with a new version to identify that. So we're good here. So FireBat's not affected by that. I'm not even sure it's the same CPU anyway, but regardless, either way, we're okay. Let me bring over my VLC. Put that in later. Uncle Carrie's Windows 11 optimizer. Drag that out. And then, of course, we want, let's see, PC testing software, Cinebench, and hardware info 32, and crystal disk mark, and crystal disk info. That's everything. So with that, I can unplug my flash drive. Let's take that out, put it back in the drawer. There we go. Let's start with crystal disk info. See what it identifies this drive as. Give that a second, it'll pop up here. It's FireBat labeled. Interesting. And it said it's a SATA drive, which those cutouts indicate. So this is only a 550 megabyte per second drive. It's not NVMe. It's old school SATA. At this price, I'm not surprised. It's still the same amount of storage. It's just, 4 times, 5 times slower than an NVMe drive. That would be a mid-range Gen 3. But most people won't notice much difference anyway.
But let's verify that with Crystal Disk Mark. We'll likely not see more than 550 as our high-speed data transfer maximum. Let's run all the tests. Here we go. It is NVMe compatible, so we could open up the laptop, change that NVMe drive out, and in doing so, raise the price of this machine by 25%. I mean, unless you've got something laying around that's free, they don't sell this as a bare bones version, so it's only going to add to your cost. Frank Jimmy said you're removing the laptop around on the table while you had it open and it may have caused the scratches on the lid. Yeah, I mean, that'll do it, right? I'm used to laptops that are a little harder to scratch than that. Otherwise, I would have put something down if that was normally a problem. But it's minor. It's just the fact that I didn't notice it before, so I probably caused it and, you know, learned from my lessons. I guess I could put myself back in the corner, so let me jump back over to camera 1 for a second and put myself down. And that's why we film live and unedited, because otherwise I could hide all that from you. And you wouldn't have known the difference. Camera's not picking it up. But that's not the way I just don't work like that. Let's be honest, let's be sincere, and let's own up to, okay, you know, now we know. And if we do it after we've known better, then that's a different problem. Frank wants to know, how often do techs work on brand new laptops? Most of the time laptops are used and already scratched and scuffed up. Well, it depends where you work. So one of the first jobs or earlier jobs I had in corporate America, when I worked at Intel, I was the only laptop repair person at the Chandler campus with over 5,000 employees. There was one person that worked on laptops, and that was me. Now, you might be of the mindset that you think I only did repairs. But the truth is, when somebody got a new laptop, who do you think configured it before they received it? The employees don't just get a laptop in the box. Somebody has to open that box and set that laptop up to the requirements that meet the policies and procedures of that individual corporation, with their software licenses and software installed and activated and configured to the corporate requirement. That's done by the laptop guy. That was my job. So I would constantly be unboxing brand new laptops multiple times a day to get them ready to go to the employees. Then on top of that, when employees had a problem with the laptop would come back only to me because I was the only one who did the work. Same is true with Arizona Public Service, which is a big power company in Phoenix. I was the only laptop person for that entire organization. So anytime a laptop came in for repair, I got it. Anytime a new laptop came in to go to an employee, I got it to configure it. And depending on the model of laptop, I had to configure it based on the model. Bottom line is that as a technician, how often did I see new laptops? Constantly. But I would get laptops back that were only out for a couple days. Like I remember at APS, somebody used the top lid as like a piece of paper, and they took a pen and wrote notes on top of the lid of the laptop. That laptop wasn't a week old, and they were like working out a math problem on it. You can't erase that. That's there forever. It was a week old. He only had it a week, and he already did that. I bet you if he paid for that laptop with his own money instead of it being company provided, he would have found a piece of paper. I couldn't believe it. I had one guy bring his laptop to me. He spilled lemonade in it and thought he could fix it himself. Got in over his head and brought me a box of parts and said, "Can you put this back together?" These were like the linemen. These are the guys that go out in the trucks and they deal with cables this big around that carry hundreds of amps of power. It's a life-ending. If you make a mistake, you will die. You're in a bucket truck where you're up on this thing and you're 20, 30 feet on the top of a pole with these giant capacitors. The tools they use are massive, the biggest tools you've ever seen. And you think one of those guys took out a little miniature precision driver and took his laptop apart? He doesn't have experience with that. I don't have experience working these giant specialty tools they have for crimping the ends on cables that are this big around and carry hundreds of thousands of volts of electricity. Like, what is going on that person crosses into my lane? But he realized it too late, got in over his head, and brought me a box of parts and said, could I put it back together? And of course I did. And thankfully all the parts were in the box. It only happened once, but that's one of those stories I get to tell over and over again. It's so unbelievable. He's not paid to fix that laptop. It doesn't belong to him, and he had no business opening it, and he was violating the terms of his employment by modifying company assets without authorization. Why he did that, I guess he didn't want anybody to know. But he wasn't going to get punished for spilling lemonade in it unless it's the 10th time he's done it. So basically, all he had to do was bring the laptop to me and say, I need this fixed. And I would have fixed it or replaced it for him. That's what I'm paid to do. And he would have gotten the laptop back sooner. That's what happens when you deal with employees. And that's why companies have policies and procedures. Because it only takes one employee to screw it all up. There's your final numbers on the SATA M.2 drive. And it's exactly what a SATA drive does. No surprises here. I was hopeful it was Gen 3 NVMe. That's what the website seemed to imply, but I guess they were talking about the slot, not the drive itself. That does explain the price a little bit. Let's save that screenshot of those results on the desktop. There it is, over there. So now we have those results, and I don't need this anymore. Let's get it out of here. Don't need that anymore. That out of there. Okay, hardware info. Let's see what we're doing on temps. Let's go to hardware info 64, run that and choose sensors only. And start that up. Let's move this over here and bring up Cinebench. Oops. And where's our temps on this? I don't see any temps yet. Gotta go further down. There they are. Look for the arrow, core temperatures. That's what I'm looking for. We're in the 40s, that's normal. And we've maxed out, since we started this piece of software, it's hit, just temporarily, up to 66.4 Celsius. So far, everything's normal. Let's go ahead and accept the license agreement, hit start on the multi-core test, and see how well the CPU performs under stress. So this is our current temperatures down this row. This is the absolute minimums since we started right down this row. These are the absolute maximums. That's what I want to keep an eye on. I'd like to see that stay below 95. And then over here is an average, which I could care less about. So my main focus is on from this range where it says 75.5, where it says core temperatures, and then down to core 5. That's what we're paying attention to, this range right in here. Everything else I'm kind of ignoring. Remember, this is a $377 complete laptop with warranty, screen, battery, keyboard. They said the keyboard was backlit, didn't they? I haven't noticed that, but I've got the studio lights on. I think the keyboard does light up, but I don't think it turns off. The more expensive laptops, the keyboards may time out when you're not typing on them, just to darken up the room when you're in the dark. I think this one's just stays on. It's really hard to see. I have to shut some lights off. They claim it's backlit. I believe they're telling the truth. But it's obviously not so bright that I'm really noticing it much in the day with the lights on. But I do believe when I create the shadow with it, they are in fact lit up. You know what I'd have to do is I'd have to turn the laptop off and then see if the keys look different. That's how subtle the lighting is. But that's all you need in a dark room. You don't need the keys blasting light in your face. If anything, that's annoying. And it's also annoying to not have any light at all and you can't see the keys. So a nice dim light is preferred. So if that's what they've done here, perfect. 86.2 looks like our highest temp right now. We usually hit those high temps in the first 2 minutes of this warm-up. This warm-up counts down 10 minutes. So if you notice, oh, my screen is in the way, isn't it? Let me move camera 1. Sorry guys, I didn't realize that was over there, or that I was covering it up. Let's move it this side. Okay, now you should be able to see everything. If I can move the mouse out of the way over there, now you should be able to see the whole screen. All right, so that's what we're going to keep an eye on while the test runs. And like I said, it does a 10-minute warm-up, which you see it's got 7 minutes and 20 some odd seconds. When it reaches 0, the benchmark runs. It'll give us a final score we can compare to these results down here. And this is an older version of the software, so these results are a bit older, but that gives you some perspective to what the CPU does compared to CPUs of just a couple of years ago. All right, let me get back over to the chat and see if I'm missing any questions. Mark Leibowitz said in his experience, it doesn't take long for a client to scratch up a new laptop. Well, here's the way I see it. If I have my car and I park it and I come out and find a dent in my car, I'm going to hit the roof. But if I'm backing my car out of the parking spot and I hit something, that's my fault. I'm upset at myself, but at least I'm the one who did it to my own car. If you own your own laptop and you scratch it up, have fun. But if you own your laptop and I scratch it up, unacceptable. That's just the way I see it. Andy says this laptop will probably score around 7,000 to 8,000 on this test. We'll see if you're right. I have no idea. I haven't the faintest idea where that's going to fall. Frank Jimmy said, as a repair tech, it's very rare I'm opening and upgrading brand new laptops. Customers just buy them with all the specs and components they need. Laptop repairs are typically on used computers. Well, that's a valid point too. When I was unboxing brand new laptops, I wasn't necessarily dismantling them. I was configuring them with the software requirements of the company that I was working for. It's pretty rare that I would ever have to open one up. But back then, they would have a little access door for the RAM. And if anything, that was usually what we did. They'd also have an access door for the hard drive. So you didn't have to open the whole thing up like you do today. But those laptops were also a lot thicker and heavier. So with progress, as things become thinner, those access doors have mostly gone away now. But yeah, it used to be super easy. You take out 1 or 2 screws, remove a little hatch door, and there's your RAM. Pop your new one in, put the hatch door back on, put the screw or 2 screws back in it. You're good to go. A hard drive often had 1 screw and it would slide right out, 1 or 2. And then the whole tray would slide out and just change the drive out in the tray, slide the tray back in. And the batteries, you didn't have to open up to replace batteries back then. But those laptops were a lot thicker and heavier. And society has decided they much prefer thinner laptops that are lighter. And that's what people are buying. They speak with their money, so that's what manufacturers are making. I'm sure if it was that important to you, you could still find a manufacturer that has access doors on thicker laptops, but you're not going to have much selection. But point well made there, Frank, with regards to opening up new laptops these days. Yeah, not when it's brand new. It's very, very unusual. However, companies like Nemo do sell bare bones laptops. And quite often, the way Nemo ships those is they don't put the screws in the back cover. The back cover just snaps in, and then you'll get a little baggie with screws because you can't use the laptop until you put RAM and storage in it. So why put the screws in it? Therefore, once you get it, you just use a spudger, and unsnap the back, put your RAM and storage in there, put the back on and use the screws to secure it, install your operating system and your drivers, and you're good to go. And that can save you half the price of the laptop if you provide your own storage and RAM. And in doing that, if you scratch up your lid, well, maybe put something soft down first. So there's always scenarios, and they're not that unusual, especially with the prices of RAM and storage so high. The fact that they even sell a bare bones laptop blows my mind. Haffen GR says hello. There's Gary Tatum saying hello. Welcome in, everybody. Montana says, in my opinion, laptops are still heavy today. Yeah, well, you should get yourself a laptop from 1995. Let me know if you still feel the same way about modern laptops, including battery life, weight, the clarity of the screen. Everything's so much better, so much lighter, so much thinner, and so much less expensive than it used to be. But they can always be better. Luke says, this may need an NVMe upgrade. Well, that's up to you to decide. I think people get hung up on the benchmarks, personally. Ignorance is sometimes bliss, and if I hadn't pointed it out, was there any indication when we booted up and we were running it that it was running sluggish? There was any lag or latency? Because I didn't notice any. Again, I'll leave that for you to decide. I think you're wasting your money personally, but maybe you are more sensitive to it than I am, and maybe you will notice a difference, but it's milliseconds. To each their own. I might have a problem with it only being 512 gigs. I think I'd like 2 terabytes. But on the other hand, I'd be better off with 512 because that'll force me to back my stuff up. Because I'll run out of space if I don't. So that creates good computer hygiene by forcing you to do something. If I have 2 terabytes, then I could put off backing it up 4 times longer. And then if something happens, I will lose it all. But to each their own. Boss mentions if you're after lighter, don't forget there are tablets. Yeah, that's true too. And you can get a Bluetooth keyboard and a Bluetooth mouse if you want. But yeah, tablets or even a Microsoft Surface could do both. It could be a laptop or a tablet. There are 2-in-1s and 3-in-1s out there as well, but not at this price point. Again, you can't be that picky. If you want to pay under $400 for a laptop brand new under warranty, you can't make demands like that unless you're willing to pay for those. And if you don't have the money to pay for it, I don't know what you think you're going to get done by, you know, if I go to McDonald's and insist I want filet mignon, I think they're going to laugh me out of the place. But there we go. Score at 79.43, pretty much what Andy predicted there, right? And let's go ahead and start the single core test. And while that runs, let me take another look here at our benchmark results. Highest temp we reached was, what is that, 93? Can't really see it too well. Go full screen over here. Let's say 93.6, and the whole package at 96. That's 1 degree hotter than I'm comfortable with, but that's very temporary and just 1 degree. For just a moment, that's fine. Anything less could potentially be leaving performance on the table. CPU can get up a little bit hotter than that. The idea is that we don't run it running at 95 all the time. And I will also mention, I've not heard the fans on the fan. It's only got 1 fan. Regardless, it's very quiet. So let's say you're in a library with this thing. People don't want to listen to your machine fan humming. So this is very ideal for a laptop to be this quiet. If they added more fans, they added more noise, they could probably bring that heat down. But again, it just hit that 96 briefly. And that's on the package. That's not even The actual cores never got that hot. And that's primarily what my concern is. I don't care what the package temperature is. I care what each core is doing. And 93.6 is the hottest so far. Okay, let's get back over to the chat room. Frank M said, I would have to review the component differences on the FIREBAT model offered at $517. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, FIREBAT's new to us. I know they make more than one laptop. And I suspect you get what you pay for. So we're looking for the least expensive option that's worthy. I would think it's worthy of a potential recommendation. But if you're sitting in a situation where you can afford to spend more, I would always tell you to spend more. You should not limit yourself because you want to be cheap. Your limit should be that's all you can afford. That's the best you can do. So I'll tell you right now, if FIREBAT has a laptop that's $40 more, then it's $40 better. And if that matters to you, that you would even consider it, spend the $40. But for the rest of us that don't have the extra $40, and it may even be a stretch to get to, oh, sorry, that's more than $40, isn't it? Because $377, it's not $477, it's $377. That puts it $130, $140 difference. But I can almost guarantee you that difference is in your processor, the amount of RAM, the Wi-Fi, maybe even the size of the screen and the battery life. Nobody, until you get up to the higher end, then there's higher profit margins. But when you're in the low and mid-range, for the most part, you get what you pay for. So if you have that as an option, I could buy a $377 laptop, or I can buy a $517 laptop. Why would you buy the cheap one? The only people that should be spending $377 for a laptop are the people that's all they have. You should not artificially hinder yourself because you want to be cheap. In my opinion, if you can afford it, that is what you should buy, if it matters to you. If it doesn't matter to you, then you wouldn't have brought up the difference anyway. In which case, just buy the cheap one. You don't care. But if you care enough to say, oh, maybe the fact that that's an option for you is the one you should buy, in my opinion, if I was consulting with you. This is what I would tell you. Don't buy the cheap one. That's for people who that's the best they can do. And it's pretty damn good at that price point. But the more you can spend, the better it'll get. And if you've got it and you just don't want to spend it, then don't complain to me that it's not good enough because you made a bad choice. And somebody who that's the best thing they can afford, they won't complain it's not good enough. They'll be grateful that they could afford it and they could get that much for the money. So sometimes the purchasers just make really bad buying decisions. And other times purchasers don't make any decision at all. If this is what you got to spend, this is the best you can get for the money. How can you complain about that? It's that or nothing. So, something to consider. Got another 4.5 minutes waiting on this, and then we'll have our final numbers, and then I think we'll wrap it up. So unless there's other questions I can answer for you, this will be the time to ask. And otherwise, once we're done with this test, I think we're done with this review. And it comes out for me as a positive for sure. Also, if I don't forget, I need to remove the little film over the webcam, and we'll take a look at the picture quality. The fact it comes with a webcam at all, again, at this price point, how can you complain? I'm sure it's fine. If you want a 4K webcam, you can go buy one and plug it into the USB port. Andy says FIREBAT's prices are all over the place. It depends on timing and who you buy from. That's true of anybody. The same with Dell and HP and Lenovo and Ace Magic. They're all over the place depending on who the seller is. But when I'm looking at the seller, I'm looking at something promoted by Amazon Prime or something I can buy directly from the company. I'm not looking at third-party sellers. I don't even consider them. Unless they're the only seller, in which case that's different. But then what am I comparing it to? They've got no competition to compare it to. If they're the only ones selling, how do you know if you're paying too much or not? So for me, I want to buy direct from the manufacturer, or I want to buy from Amazon with a prime shipping that I know it's coming from official sources and not from third parties, just generally speaking. In which case, all those third parties are noise. I don't pay attention to their pricing. I don't care. Andy said the sweet spot is what you can afford, meeting what you can get for that price. Yep. John Williams said it's a very nice budget-friendly laptop. If you told me you could buy an entire laptop for $377 in 1996, I want to know what drugs you're smoking. And yet, for some people, it's still not enough in today's day and age. That's how entitled we've become. And there's no sense of gratitude or appreciation for the evolution of the technology and the amount of power and battery you're getting at such a small price, especially when you consider $377 in 1990s money. You know what that's worth today, that same $377? Let me ask Google. How much is 377 USD in 1996? That would have been $793.43 if you adjusted that for inflation today. Adjusted for inflation, $377 today has the same purchasing power as approximately $793. Oh, sorry, let me reverse it. $377 in 1996 would be the equivalent of $793 today. We need to go the other way around. Let's go the other way. So how much is $377 today? Oh, did it answer me right? I think it answered me right. No, it's saying 377 in 1996. So 377 in 2026 versus 1996. Maybe that's the way I need to phrase it. Essentially, this would be $800 in 1996. And today it's $377. So when anybody says it's priced too high, I can't wrap my head around what world they live on. How are their economics different than mine? Were they not around 30 years ago? Is it just me? Is this common sense? Does your money have a different value than my money? That's insane. You get so much more for your money today, so much more. And you're paying half as much, basically. Anyway, there you go. Basically, that dollar, $1 US in 1996 would be worth $2.10 today with regards to how much you can buy for that $1. You could buy $2.10 worth of stuff for $1 in 1996, but you also had much fewer dollars. Now we've got more dollars and things cost more. So, you know, welcome to the world of inflation. Clearly, economics isn't my cup of tea, so I'm not doing a very good job explaining this. But the bottom line is that when we consider price, we also have to consider value. And by value, you know, someone says, oh, you could buy a house in 1955 for $30,000. Okay, but what was the average salary in 1955? It wasn't $30,000 a year unless you were doing really, really well. The average person in 1955 in America was earning, let's see, get my glasses back out. Now, wouldn't it be great if we were earning minimum wage of $15 today, but in 1955, then everybody would want that job. You'd never get hired. What am I doing? How much was the annual salary on average in 1955 in the USA? So your average income was, are you sitting down? $3,300 per year to $3,400 per year. And of course, this varied. Men were paid more than women on average, and women would earn maybe about $1,100 less. The average income in 1955 for the entire household was $4,400 a year. The federal minimum wage in 1955 was $1 per hour. So if a house was $30,000, that was still 90% more than you earned a year. Now, by today's comparison, how much is the average salary in 2026? And the average household salary now is $74,738, which would mean if a house were 90% more than that, you'd be spending around $700,000 on average. But it's only half of that. A 1,500 square foot house in Phoenix, about $350,000, $400,000. So houses have become more affordable, not less. People are just twisted in how they understand money because it's your percentage of your income against the cost of the house. And in the 50s, it was way more expensive. Just do the math. Anyway. Scott Messerschmidt saying hello. Welcome in, Scott. There's Al joining us saying hello. Welcome in, Al. We're in the middle of the week here. It's a Wednesday, almost the end of April, ready to start May. And for those temperatures to start going up, summer is right around the corner. Frank Jimmy said, I would definitely recommend this FireBat laptop over an HP, where the HP comes with an N150 and 8 gigs of RAM at the same price. Agreed, but some people feel better having a big name behind it. But you're not going to get much in support on something that cheap, regardless of the company. They can't afford to give away that support for no cost. So I imagine you're probably going to find the support pretty lacking on HP on the low-end products. And Boss mentions, and back in 1996, you still had a lot less CPU storage and RAM. That's true. Or she didn't really need it back then either. Andy says, I think this is a win for FireBat. No major faults. It's a Chevy for the price of a Yugo. It does appear to be that way. I don't see anything to not like about this. I mean, I'm just as a first impression. I don't really know it very well. But it's always a good sign that I'm not seeing anything immediate. Like I said, once this is done, I'll remove the film and we'll check out the film over the camera. We'll check out the resolution on that. I don't expect much, but the fact it's got the camera and the privacy shutter means if you want to engage in Microsoft Teams or, I don't know, wherever else you use cameras in Facebook, FaceTime, or Discord. Do they use cameras in Discord? I don't even know. I think it's mostly just microphones, isn't it? But it's nice to have it, even if you don't need it, because needs can change in a moment's notice. And you can always add more storage via USB. You can always add a higher-end webcam via USB. This system will handle it. But you will ultimately, when you add up the price of the laptop and all these accessories, you might have been better off buying a laptop that has everything built in. Unless you didn't know you needed that until a year in and you're like, oh, geez, I guess I need a new laptop. But no, in that case, it'd be cheaper to just add on the accessories for more storage. Or even if you wanted to go to 2.5 gig networking, you could buy one of those little networking adapters like this. $20, you're good to go. You just start plugging things into USB. You've got how many USB ports? One fast one and one slow one on that side. And then one fast one over here. So you're not exactly, oh, there's also a USB-C over here. So you got 4 USB ports, that's fair. More and more we're seeing minis with 6 USB ports, and that's usually 2 more than most people need, usually. And if it's not enough, you can buy a USB hub and plug it in there and get 4 to 6 or 8 extras. You just keep adding on to the dongles and a messy desk. But it is an option. You're not locked in. So far I'm agreeing with you, Andy. I think it is a solid value at $377, regardless of the SATA drive. The fact it's Wi-Fi 6 and not Wi-Fi 5, I would expect Wi-Fi 5 at this price. Most people that buy a laptop at this price probably don't have Wi-Fi 6 anyway. But, you know, I'm making a stereotypical statement that if you can't afford a very nice laptop, you probably don't have a very nice or modern router either. It's common sense. Doesn't mean you don't. It's just, if we stereotype it and we average it out, generally speaking, somebody with a giant screen, you know, $3,000–4,000 TV is also likely paying for streaming services or cable services. They're not just using a TV antenna because they can't afford cable. Because if you couldn't afford the cable, you probably couldn't afford a $3,000 TV, right? Just like common sense. Our maximum temp really hasn't gone up very much. It looks like 93.6 is the maximum. And then again, on the package, we're still at 96 max. So it's quiet. It's running acceptably. It's not crashing and overheating or anything like that. It's obviously thermal throttling. And it looks like the thermal throttle is at 96 because it won't go any higher than that. So in theory, there should be no possible way for you to overheat this, unless you bump the voltage up somehow, which reminds me, we need to get into the BIOS too before we wrap it up for today. So 2 little things to check. Let's do a screenshot capture of this page. So that'll be, let's see, which button is the print screen? Insert print screen. Which one does it do? Don't know. Do I hit function and insert? Let's try that. I'll type in paint and see if we captured the screen. Can't tell. Edit. Where's my, oh, here, paste. There it is. Okay, it was the function key. Very good. So now I've got that. Let's save it. And we'll save it as Cinebench R23 results. JPEG, and we'll put it on the desktop. Now I can close this, and I can close this, and I can close that. And there's our screenshot of our test results right there. And our final scores. And our final temps. Very good. Web camera. Okay, so let me turn this around. Let's go to camera 2. And right up here, there's a little piece of film with a little blue tag. And if we pull on that, it should remove that little teeny tiny film over the little teeny tiny. Look at how small. You see it on my thumb? How frustrating is that if you don't have good eyes and you're like, why does this camera suck? Because you got the lens cover on it. All right, and then we've got a little shutter, privacy shutter right here that will cover the camera up when it's not in use. And it shows a red dot that the camera cover is red. So when you see the red, it's being covered, and when I slide that little switch back, it slides. It's just a little piece of plastic, and it's painted red on the end, and when it covers the lens, you see the red. When it uncovers the lens, it's just a lens. So let's go back to this desktop on your screen, and let's test the webcam out. And I'm just going to Google for a webcam test. Probably could just go to, there's probably a website. This is how crazy the internet is now. Webcamtest.com is probably a thing. Let's see. The site doesn't support a secure connection. Oh, I'm not plugged into the network. I never plugged myself back in. Hold on, let me grab my Ethernet cable. I forgot. That would explain that mystery. All right, let's go back over to the Ethernet jack and plug this bad boy in. And then down on the bottom right corner, you should see that globe change. Yeah, better. Let's close that out. Wait till we're connected. Okay. Webcam test. I mean, I could Google it, or I could just probably guess that's the name of a site. It is. All right, how do we do this? Price is about what? Oh, it's for sale. Never mind. I will Google it. Webcam. The keys are very soft. There's not much clicking to them. They're soft touch typing keys. They don't have much throw. Webcam test. I just get used to it. Webcam, oh, plural. That's where I screwed up. It's plural. Let's try that out. Okay, we have to give this permission. It says it's detecting. Click here to allow permission, and we have to click allow. For security reasons, they want to make sure you're aware that you're turning on your webcam. A web camera was detected. Press test my cam. Okay, here we go. Hey, that's actually pretty good. Look at that. That looks good. That's much better than I was expecting. Wow, look at that. I'm impressed. Look, I got pants on, in case you were wondering. And I like the camera is up at the top instead of down at the bottom where you could look right up my nose. Because that's always a really nice way to look at somebody on cameras, to just, you know, have this angle where you get to see their neck in the inside of their nostrils. That's what happens on my Galaxy Book. Has the webcam down at the bottom bezel instead of the top of the bezel. And if I close the privacy shutter, that's what you get to see. When I open the privacy shutter, I will also say that there's a blue light that's on next to the camera at the top bezel of the screen here that lets you know your camera's on. And when I slide the bezel, the light goes off. So and you have a red dot where the camera normally is. Just like a painted, it's not illuminated, red dot. Very good. What? Did you see it?
I just have to say what I loved the most about that was the floating cursor that was right over your face, and it kept pointing out all the things you were talking about.
Pick my nose with the arrow.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Okay, so web cameras, that's really good. I am impressed. I wasn't expecting it to be that good. I don't know the resolution. It says it's 640 by 480. Is that the maximum resolution this camera supports? 17 frames a second? Maybe, but it's fine. Look, it doesn't look bad at all. But again, if we want to go buy a $200 webcam and plug it into the USB port, we could go 4K webcam if we want to pay for it. This laptop will handle it. All right, let's close this out and let's go into the BIOS and take a quick look and wrap it up. Windows Update. advanced options, recovery, advanced startup. Let's go. Andy says, wherever FIREBAT has cut corners, they did it where we cannot see it and it does not really count for much. SATA and the power supply. True, yeah. Also, we're getting Chinese written on the, where it would normally say please wait on the startup, which you're not seeing yet because the HDMI driver is not loading without Windows. So right now, if I turn this, let's go this way. I'm now sitting at that screen, but our HDMI driver hasn't loaded. So I'm going to say, let's go into the troubleshooting section under advanced options and then under UEFI firmware settings and restart. And that should take us into the BIOS. And I'm sure the HDMI only works in Windows. But what I was seeing was some Chinese written down here. So for that reason, I will probably do a clean install of Windows 11 on this, because they're using an international version that's not completely English, and it bugs me. It's not harmful. It's just not set to my standard. And sometimes we see that with the Asian manufacturers, that they don't thoroughly test their machines for English. And it's just has to do with their country, the international version of the Windows installer versus the very specific English United States version that I specifically use. So I will put Windows back on this. We'll reset it. That way I won't be surprised with any foreign languages appearing randomly in certain boot ups like we just saw. Not that it's a deal killer, but if you sell it to a customer that way, they might think something's a little sketchy. So in the BIOS, we can move around in here with the arrow keys. And unfortunately, I don't have any good way to capture this for you. Not a whole lot of features and options in this BIOS. It's again, it's a $377 laptop, so things are pretty minimal. But at the same time, the way it's set from the factory isn't really meant for you to modify. That's more of a feature that is on a more expensive laptop. So the fact that this is limited is based on its price. It makes perfect sense. And let me just take a look here, because I can't really see it very well when I point it the other way. Yeah, there's our 16 gigs of RAM. It is DDR4, 3200 speed. Date and time are correct. Windows took care of that for us. Trusted computing, USB configuration. Yeah, I would just leave all this exactly. Graphics configuration, it's all on auto. UMA frame buffers on auto. Then you've got your passwords, which I leave empty. Secure boot, which I'm going to leave alone. Your boot order, and then save and exit or restore defaults. So I'll go ahead and save changes and exit even though we haven't changed anything. And then as this reboots, let's go ahead and put it back on camera HDMI input 3. So when Windows starts up, the HDMI should be activated through this cable right here. And yep, there it goes. Okay. Was there anything else I wanted to check or you wanted me to check? Is it the latest BIOS? I would assume it is. You don't normally get BIOS updates on mini PCs or budget laptops. It's few and far between. It doesn't hurt to check. Let's go see what FIREBAT has for drivers. I mean, I'll back the drivers up on this myself. But nonetheless, let's go to FIREBAT PC and see what their support looks like. At least for this laptop anyway. So laptop right here. Yeah, this is the AS1. How is that $700? Is it spec'd out with more RAM? Can't tell. Got a 28 watt TDP, so it's pretty low. That means it's going to have a good battery life and stay cool. This laptop features 16 gigs of DDR4 and 512. Why is it so much money compared to Amazon? That's should be the other way around. It should be cheaper to buy here. They want you to buy it on Amazon. And it pulls up nothing. Doesn't even take us to the product. But we bought this on Amazon. We typed in FIREBAT AS1. Ah. Oh, FIREBAT official store. Let's change that to Amazon. Now let's search again. Oh, Nemo's got a deal going on a little bit cheaper. Look at this. Instead of $377, they're $7 cheaper. Oh, but the drive is half the size. Okay. I'd pay the extra $7 to get a twice capacity of the drive. And we don't know that that's NVMe or SATA either. So that could be a faster drive, but smaller. There's our FIREBAT right there. And it says from FIREBAT. So, yeah. That's this laptop right here. Oh, I was looking for drivers though, wasn't I? I got distracted. So FIREBAT AS1 drivers. Let's just Google it. Takes us to FIREBAT PC is our first link. In here you can download Windows 11. I will not use their Windows 11 because it's an international version. I will provide my own Windows 11. Thank you very much. And then as far as drivers go, we'll go down to laptops. These laptops start with the letter A. That's us right there, drivers. I don't see anything regarding a BIOS. Why is there a RAID driver? This does not support RAID. This looks like a generic driver folder for AMD. That's disappointing. And then there's some on-screen display, which I don't know what that's for. I don't know that this laptop supports this either. This doesn't make any sense other than laziness. It's like they copied and pasted some. What does this text file say? Oh, it's just a hash. Never mind. All right, let's go back. Did we see a BIOS? Nope. Just drivers in Windows 11 Home. And of course, you can upgrade that to Pro. I don't know that they will. I know Nemo will give you a free license to Pro if you want to do that. I don't know if FIREBAT will. I don't know why anybody would want Pro anyway, but you know, people are people, so they want what they want. It doesn't always make sense. You do see there is a BIOS over here on this B16, but the fact that one doesn't exist over here means there is no BIOS update at this time, and there may never be. If you want BIOS updates on a regular basis, stick with HP, Dell, or Lenovo, and those will cost you more. I don't know what a BIOS update would do for us. It's not doing anything incorrectly. It doesn't need any repair. It's not being held up in any way that I can tell. It's not running too hot. It's not running too cold. It's doing, like, what would a BIOS update be fixing for us? That would explain why one doesn't exist. And that's usually the way these budget machines go. There's not going to be a lot of after-sales support because they don't want to pay their employees to continually update things where they make very little money. They just want you to buy another one. If you want to spend more money to get that kind of support, that's how the support gets paid for. So just set proper expectations based on how much you're paying. So I'm not surprised there's no BIOS, but there was no harm in looking. And then I can go ahead and run my optimizer right now. And then after that runs and reboots, we'll run the driver backup. And I'll make a copy of that. And I'll just do a clean install of Windows. Should be real super easy. Also, I'm not seeing the adrenaline. Oh, there it is. I bet that's out of date. Current version 24.9.1 from 2 years ago. Up to date. Is it? Well, I guess AMD hasn't updated this in a while. But what about our chipset driver? See, I don't see any manage option here. Like there's a manage profile, but I want to manage my updates, and there's no manage updates button. The AMD Adrenalin software is so inconsistent with how it displays on one computer to another, based on which CPU you have. It drives me crazy as a tech. But it doesn't matter. If I'm going to reinstall the OS, I'm going to reinstall the Adrenalin software, and that will, by default, should give me the latest chipset drivers and Adrenalin, which should be the same version as what I have now, I guess. I just don't know how to verify it with that version. It doesn't tell me. Oh, there is one place we could check. We can go into the apps section, you know, where you uninstall programs, and look and see what version of AMD chipset driver is installed. That's how we can tell. You just shouldn't have to do this jumping through hoops nonsense with AMD. You don't do that with Intel. Look, I'm not beating up on them. I'm just telling you how it is. I didn't make this up, but I'm not looking at it through a fixed lens. You're seeing exactly the same thing I'm seeing. And it just doesn't work that way in Intel. And I'm just pointing that out. I want it to be the same. I don't want AMD to do it differently. But they do, and as a result, it leaves us with a lack of information that I don't know if my chipset driver is current or not. But with AMD, or sorry, with Intel, I could just download the driver regardless and install it. And I can use Intel's driver updater to tell me, or can I? Actually, the driver updater from Intel may not do anything with the chipset. But Intel's chipset driver updates usually don't improve performance and security in the same way AMD's do. You could have an older AMD chip that's just running sluggish, and you just replace your chipset drivers, and all of a sudden it's better than new. That's not usually the case with Intel, unless you forgot to put them on to begin with. But yeah, now I think about it, neither company does a good job of telling you what version you've got. It's just more important because the updates do make a bigger difference overall in AMD than they do on Intel. Updates. Okay, so let's go back to, let's see, Secure Boot is turned off. That's fine. Activated. Windows, TPM is on. System Restore is on. All these defaults look good. And then we'll, let's go to Settings, and then we'll go under Apps and see if it lists what chipset driver we've got. Be right up here under AMD chipset, and it's not there. So if I go and download the AMD chipset driver right now, it will put it in here. Watch. This is what's maddening to me as a technician. AMD chipset drivers. Search or browse. We want a chipset driver. Oh, I gotta accept the cookies. We want a chipset driver for a mobile platform, which would be a laptop. And it's just one file. No choices. For Windows 11. Download. See the date on that? That's just last month. I promise you, we don't have this version number. Our number will be smaller. I don't know how much smaller. But once we install this, we should have that version. Let's verify. Wouldn't it be nice if AMD let us know, hey, your chipset driver's been updated. You should update because it's free and it can improve your performance, your security, and the reliability of the machine. Why wouldn't you put that on? Because you didn't know it existed. Because AMD won't tell you. You got to be a tech to know to look for this stuff. Or you got to be technically savvy to understand it. It shouldn't be this secretive. Yeah, all these checkboxes are like, this is everything you need. See the current versions listed here too for each individual driver. So just hit install. And if you already have those latest versions, you can still install the same version on top. There's no downside doing this. It's completely free. On the upside, if it's replacing newer drivers, you might notice your system's faster. Or if your system was crashing or acting a little weird, That might go away. That's often why these drivers are updated. And you may not notice any difference at all, but there's no downside to it, except not knowing that this is an option if you own an AMD that you are responsible for, that AMD will not help you out with it in most cases. Some people that have the AMD driver, the Adrenalin software, it will maintain your chipset for you, but some don't, as we've just witnessed here right now. Now, for those new drivers to take effect, we have to restart the computer. And then when I go back into settings under apps, I should see what version of chipset driver I've got now going forward. But who would know to do that if I didn't just explain it to you? Some of you, but not most of you. I didn't even know that till like last week, so it's not meant as an insult. It's just, that's typical, right? What else would you expect? Under apps now, under installed apps, do I see the chipset driver and the version? I do. Look at that. Now, whether or not it makes any difference, I don't know, but it doesn't hurt. All right, I guess I can back up those drivers right now so I can get ready to do my Windows 11 reinstall. So I'll just bring up my optimizer and I'll hit the back up the drivers button. No third-party software is needed. We just use the DISM command in Windows to take care of it internally. And all we're doing is automating it with the button. That's all it's doing. You can do all this by hand. You don't need my optimizer to do anything the optimizer does. It just does it very thoroughly, doesn't forget anything, and it does it much faster than you can. And so for me, working at the scale I work at, this makes my job easier. That was backed up. Okay, that's it. So now we have a folder on our C drive called drivers. How big is this folder? Oh, it's pretty small, only 1.52 gigs. Fantastic. And I've got the backup of this wallpaper from the previous FireBat we looked at a couple days ago. So I don't need to back this up. I do want to put the wallpaper back on. Kind of unique there. And that's it. So overall, basically, what I can tell you from what I've experienced today is this is a very acceptable laptop. There's no knowing how well it's going to hold up over time. I don't know what kind of battery life it's got. And again, it depends on how it's being used. And what one person finds acceptable, somebody else might find unacceptable. I think at this price point, you're lucky to get this much at all. But yeah, that's just my opinion. I'm not here to make these decisions for you. I'm trying to be as impartial and unbiased to raise awareness of things I might be concerned about. Whether or not they matter to you or what matters to you may not matter to me. So at the end of the day, all I'm trying to do is make a product introduction so you guys can consider it for yourselves or the people you know, or maybe if you run a business, if it's worth offering to some of your clients. If you have any experience with FireBat personally and you want to share that with us for better or for worse, we'd love to hear your personal experience with any brands, whether you liked it or didn't like it, and if so, why. You can reach us via email. I'll put the email address right there on the screen. And we love hearing from you. Reach out anytime. Thank you to Mara for the amazing thumbnail she did today and all the video notes that she's assembled with all the links. Thank you to Mark Gaines and Buster for your Super Chat contributions. Also, hold on a minute. I know I'm forgetting somebody. Michael Lavelle. Sorry, Michael. Didn't mean to forget you. And I think Luke Greenia wants to buy this laptop from us. So what I'll do, we'll talk to Luke in email. I'll do the clean install of Windows 11 and I'll convert it to Windows 11 Pro for you. So when you receive it from me, you should be able to just plug it in and start using it. And then Luke will keep us up to date on what it's like to live with. And if there's any problems, I'm sure he'll let us know. He's a regular attendee of our chat room, and I am sure there'll be no delay if there's a problem in between when there's a problem and when we hear about it. And that's the best long-term testing we could put it through, is to actually put it into use for everyday normal, whatever he needs it for, and see how it performs at that task. And if it performs to expectations, or if there are any unexpected surprises. So we'll talk about that, Luke, and get this out to you. I don't think we're going to see this laptop on the channel again. I don't think there's any reason to reevaluate it. At this point, any reevaluation will come from our friend Luke. That way we can take the money from this and then invest it in something else. And if there's something you want us to review, and if we can afford it, please let us know in the email. Send us a link. Tell us why you think we should review it, because we're interested in reviewing things that I can sell to my clients, or things that potentially I need to evaluate. If they're worthy of consideration, we need to evaluate it first. And you might be finding things I never found before. And if we can afford it, we'll take your suggestion. So right there is how you can reach out to us for those suggestions as well. I didn't even look at this documentation. It looks much more thorough than most documentation, but it is in multiple languages. So this whole thing is not English. In fact, I think the English portion, it ends here, but where does it start? It doesn't start until you're a few pages in. And then it becomes English. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is why I don't even bother looking at this. 7, 8. 8 pages of this entire manual is a different language every 8 pages. So probably only 8 pages of that you're going to be able to read if you're if you speak one main language, like most of us, at least here in the US. You're reading it in another language, you're just reading the same information anyway. So 8 pages of all this thick book right here is all that's applicable. Edward Bass says, Carrie and Mar and everyone else, have a great rest of your evening. Thank you, Edward. You too. Andy says, thank you, Carrie and Marlena. Thank you, Andy. Jim Kinney says, you always used to check BIOSes when you built computers. Yes, and I still do. This is not a computer we built. These are not the same thing. I cannot emphasize enough that a computer is not just a computer. The rules that apply to mini PCs are more similar to laptops because they're using mobile components. When you're building a machine and you're buying a motherboard, there's different rules. Those machines get regular BIOS updates because, think about the logic here. You can't change the CPU out on this, it's soldered down. One of the reasons you get BIOS updates is for compatibility with the latest CPUs, especially on the AMD platform. Because if you're building your own machine, you could put any compatible CPU in it, even if it's a 4-year-old motherboard and the CPU just came out yesterday. You just need a BIOS update for that. But you can't do that on a mini PC or a laptop. Therefore, those BIOS updates to remedy that situation don't need to happen because that situation cannot be created. It's impossible. The other reason for BIOS updates could be RAM compatibility issues, and that's generally related to a newer chip that just came out or a newer chipset. Budget laptops aren't going to be brand new, just released processors. These processors are already going to be a couple of years old from when they were introduced to the market. So they've had plenty of time to mature and the BIOSes to have all that compatibility stuff already behind us. But when you buy a motherboard, you could be buying a board that just came out yesterday, and that RAM compatibility issues have yet to be discovered. So when you're building your own machine and you're buying your own motherboard, there's all these variations and options that don't exist when parts are soldered down. Therefore, those BIOS updates for compatibility simply don't exist. They're not needed. So when you're building your own machine, you definitely want to keep checking for BIOS updates. But when you're building, when you're getting a machine pre-built, and particularly one made of mobile components like a laptop or a mini PC, there aren't typically any BIOS updates, and they're very rare. Dell and HP and others, they will come out with regular BIOS updates because they charge more, and I'm not sure what those updates are doing or why they're necessary, but you can own the computer for 10 years and never do a BIOS update. Most people never update their BIOS. And with Dell, HP, Lenovo, it's going to happen through Windows Update whether you like it or not. But if you're not solving any problems, then there's nothing wrong that needs to be solved. And we will download the latest BIOS updates to prevent what could be a problem that the BIOS update solves. But if there's not a BIOS update, then there's no problem that needs to be solved. Therefore, it's irrelevant and doesn't apply. I hope that didn't make it any more confusing. But it's like saying you have a four-wheel drive car versus a rear-wheel drive sports car. But you expect them both to behave exactly the same? No, they're going to be very different in how they handle, in their performance, in their capabilities off-road, or in their capabilities on-road. Because they have doors and wheels, and they're both vehicles, but they supply two different purposes, and they excel at two different tasks. They do not overlap each other. Their pricing different, the maintenance is different, and just because you did something to your sports car doesn't mean you need to do it to your four-wheel drive or vice versa. You probably don't have a transaxle that needs maintenance in a sports car. So, anyway, these are not the same things, so don't expect the same procedures. A computer is not a computer. Okay, so it's very important you understand that looking at the surface, you've got to get under the surface to understand the differences for this to make sense. It's like saying all country music sounds alike. Well, that's why it's called country music, and that's why rock and roll sounds like rock and roll, country sounds like country. And if all country music sounds alike to you, because you're not listening. Because if you were listening, you'd hear all the different songs, and you'd say, oh, it's a very different song. But it follows into the country genre. So as a computer genre, right? If you're not really looking at the details, they all look alike. But if you are getting under the surface a little bit, a little more technical, you'll say, well, this is different because it's a laptop. This is different because it's a mini. This is different because it's hand-built. That's all. And we're here to teach you how to get under the hood and not just have this surface view of everything that lacks any nuance. We want to bring you up to that level, if you want to go there, to identify the differences and understand the value. Luke says this laptop will be a definite big upgrade for the wife. She's been using a 5-year-old cheap Walmart HP. Yeah, I think this will be much better than that for sure. Andy says, so far, FireBat is 2 for 2 on value. Yeah, it's not perfect, but for the price, it's hard to complain where they're falling short, like when we had an issue with the drivers, or where this has an international copy of Windows, which I personally don't like. It's hard to complain at this price point, though. I mean, if it's take it at $377 or have nothing, unless you want to spend more, I would take that at $377 and say thank you. If someone's giving me a 5-course dinner for $5, and I'm like, yeah, I think this needs more seasoning, get out. Just leave. Here's your $5 back. You ungrateful. All right, that's going to wrap it up for me for today. Thank you guys for being members. Thank you for your support and those super chat, those Amazon gift cards, PayPal super chat contributions to keep us moving. This was paid for with your money, everybody in green. And when Luke pays for it, the money he pays will go right back to buying something else. And that's how we're going to keep running without corporate sponsorship. You okay with that? Because otherwise we don't have a channel. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out with us today. Green or blue or white, I don't care. You're part of the community. We love having you here. Thank you for hanging out with us. Don't feel any obligation to support the channel. Just being here is supporting it. And so long as we have the ability to keep moving forward, we're going to keep doing it. Okay? It's not for me not wanting to do it anymore. I want to do it. My hands are a little tight on the budget, but we're making do with the thanks of our generous members, and I can't emphasize how much we rely on that, including everybody else who's watching the videos at no cost. It's because of the people paying for it. I think they deserve credit. So, thank you. All right, this is, let's see, no show for tomorrow. We'll be back on Friday with another mini PC to review. I'm not sure I've made up my mind on which one I want to do. I have a very interesting AO star that's kind of drawing my eye. On the other hand, we have that other GMK tech. I think we have 2 other GMK techs. And I think we have 2 AO stars. So it's a nice position to be in that I have choices. What will it be? You'll have to join us on Friday to find out. 1 o'clock Arizona time, which is currently Pacific time. That's our regular start time. We hope you'll join us then. Until next time, bye for now.